scared. They found who they need. That's a big shot down. He hooks himself back in. They want it. Kisei's not here, but what was that? It's a pentakill. Go 1-for-1 into Schön. Fire gets slammed into the wall to actually go to Olaf. There's the access shot. And he hits the lumberjack. Yeah, the point. Tries he might release the hyperactive, but he can never find a second. Chippy is on an absolute tear right now.
Good evening and welcome to LCO. We're starting off our playoffs week. It is 5 days of action, and joining me for these 5 days is going to be Max sitting next to me. Ayo. We got Skimmy, we got Rusty on the other couch. What are you giggling at already?
I just find it so hilarious now that we actually take into context the entire couch setup, and you guys got colours, you're all patterned, and then we're just straight vibing.
You got like
black
the plain
everything.
shirt underneath, and then black jacket, black pants.
Sir.
We're a little bit of...
We're just vibing out here.
Yeah, we're not bright colours, but we are the colours.
We're bringing the vibrance here for sure.
Yeah. We'll bring up the energy as well, but before we do, let's have a little bit of a look back at the tiebreakers that occurred last Wednesday.
Ultimate denied. Without a smite, objectives become that much more impactful. Charm, hook, Aladoric lives, but then gets killed from a fadeaway by Limes. Across the wall we go. Liv taking Kevy on a bit of a magical journey, but Kevy becomes the Blitzcrank. And yet again, just barely misses the hook. As the charm on the after end does connect with Panther, but that's not the target you're after.
This time, Chiefs actually getting the better as Clip's going.
They are certainly looking for it. Kevy, he's got nothing left in the tank now. He is going to fall on down. But Kisei blasting forward, two-man Ring of Frost, and they disengage away. But Limes is just too strong. Fire goes Golden, lives on the flank. Intopia Strike drags back Kevy. He's got the Guardian Angel, but needs a bit of divine intervention to try and bring it back from this one, because it's Kaiser in the mid lane just raining down hot fire, bring down whoever they want right now. Kisei's going to cast the ultimate on his head, live for as long as he can, but he cannot survive. 2 kills for Limes. He is godlike inside the Lantris pit. They will become invulnerable. They will survive.
Now that tiebreaker was important so we could find out who was going to be coming into playoffs in first place, who was going to be top of the ladder, and it was Team Bliss in that best of one. They took it out, and in quite, dominant fashion. I want to say that game was really clean from them from start to finish.
It was back and forth, and I think that it speaks to the fact that we're still so close. Yes, we finally got a sole stander on the top of the standings, but that doesn't mean that this is a one-team race by any means. We've still got a bunch of exciting matchups to come today.
Yeah, we've got 6 teams in the race, Max.
I knew you were going to say
We need
that.
Limes to get an interview. We need him to bring it up.
We'll see if we
How
can
many
get
teams are left, Limes?
that one out of him. Maybe he can tell us. But while we're looking at this, you guys will see that the teams that made it to playoffs, Team Bliss will be coming up against Direwolves, Chiefs up against Mammoth. They're the 2 series we will be seeing today. They are best of 3s. And whoever does lose between them will be going down. One team facing off against PGG and the other one up against Vertex. But that's later down the track. That's a tomorrow thing. We don't have to worry about that. We really just mainly have to focus on the fact that our best of 5s are the 2 qualifying PCS matches, and they will be taking place on Thursday and Friday. So maybe you're not a big fan of best of 3s, maybe you just want to see who qualifies. That is the Thursday and the Friday you want to be tuning in for. Everything else is going to be taking place over Monday, today, Tuesday, and Wednesday.
And there will be a week break between that Friday and Sunday, right? Between the finals match and the actual grand final. So just keep that in mind. It's not happening consecutively, but we will be having 5 days back-to-back consecutively.
We'll need it, as will the players, because I think we're all going to be so depleted of all our energy and almost overloaded, which is actually a blessing, right? It's almost like Christmas, overloaded with LCO content.
You kind of just get everything all at once, and you're like, okay, we get to sit back, relax, reset, and then that playoffs, that grand final happening on this Sunday. But, that's, again, later down the track. Those 6 teams that I did mention does mean that Kanga and Ground Zero were our 2 teams that unfortunately didn't make it to playoffs in our 8-team race. So let's have a look back. Let's have a look at Kanga's journey and everything that they brought to the regular split when it comes to games and action. This one being up against PGG. So what do you guys think was the best thing that stood out for you about Kanga, their growth over those 6 weeks?
Look, they didn't have the best showing results-wise, but this was a team that I was always very excited to watch. I think the addition of Shinky to the top lane, this was the most questionable roster swap of the entire split for me. but he ended up actually making it work, and towards the end there was certainly holding his own in the top lane. To me, the star is that mid-jungle from Kanga. Mayfan fighter, incredibly explosive both in what they want to pick and how they play the game. Always makes them a treat to watch.
Yeah, I think for me their downfall was the fact that the split was so short, so Shinga didn't get enough time to get those reps in to really showcase just how much skill he had on that role. Also, we saw some phenomenal outplays, some performances, some solo kills even into some very much veterans of that role as well. But you see the likes of obviously Fighter and Mayfan. No surprise that a team is sort of really built around them finding success, and a lot of the time you did see them almost relegate themselves to a side lane of let's just try and get Fighter as fed as possible, and maybe he can 1v9.
I think the sad thing for me is, like you said, Skimmy, it was about time, right? They're the last week of the LCO that we had an interview where Jake, I think it was, mentioned bringing in Morgan, UNE, 2 new coaches to the squad as well, but that's week 6 of 6 for them, right? Like, they really did just run out of time, and the thing with Kanga is the players on paper had a lot of potential. I just don't know if they had time or if the team itself actually meshed together to make that happen in the time frame that they had, which obviously every team has to do.
Yeah, that is the tough thing about it only being a best of 2 single round robin for this format. It is only 6 weeks. It's going to take some time, but either way, there was a lot of growth for them. They started off strong, getting a lot of draws. Unfortunately, couldn't convert it to be able to take any 2-0s for themselves, but a lot of games were closer than what the score does reflect. And same can be said for Ground Zero. That team over there, unfortunately, also not making it to playoffs, but did pick up a couple more wins for themselves and some really good showing and characters on that team.
And I think personally, this was one of my standout games of any player to split. The LCO game on Zeri against PGG, the one where Violet was talking trash for the entire start of the game, and then he comes in and drops a 13-0, absolutely pops off in that game. So to me, yes, this was a team that I think didn't live up to their own expectations. I think from speaking to their coaching staff, they had a pretty rough 0-2 versus Vertex that really screwed them in the standings. But this is a team that definitely deserves to be higher than they are, and hopefully if some of these players are returning in future, they will get a chance to contend in these playoffs.
Yeah, that was the one moment that I think Ground Zero and Kanga are both going to be upset about, right? The fact that Vertex 2-0'd them in that series. That's the one thing that's going to live rent-free in both of their minds. But yeah, for me, Ground Zero, very similar trajectory to Kanga in a lot of ways, right? You saw the potential behind this squad at moments, but the issue is it was only at moments. They couldn't find consistency, and unfortunately for Ground Zero, you know, their last 2 weeks were some of the worst we'd seen from them. So they kind of lost that form that they'd found in the week prior, and that really hurts them. And it is little details as well, right? Like, Emphasis champion pool was meta, which means it was permanently banned. And like, that's something that they had an advantage the split prior. The LeBlanc was a pick that only he was playing. Now you're not going to play that ever again. He has to adapt, and adaptation takes time, and they didn't have it.
Yeah, that is true. The games that you're talking about that they really popped off were the ones that was on 13.11. Then when we came to 13.12, that's when they started to struggle a little bit more. I'm definitely going to miss the Gooby interviews. I think that one, for me, strikes home the most. We're not going to get another Gooby interview this split.
This team seemed like they had the most fun out of any team playing, which is incredible given their record, right? They were always smiling on the player cams.
Either that or flexing.
Hey,
Bulldog's still got mirrors in real life. He'll be all right. We just won't get to see the flexing.
We personally won't get to see it. But that team brought a lot of energy, had a lot of fun for them, and we talked about how a patch change affected them, how they weren't able to be consistent throughout that patch 13.12. And we got another patch change. We got 13.13 here. So let's talk about it. A new patch for playoffs, everything that's occurred over in the champions there. Who's been nerfed, who's been buffed, and potentially what some changes we could see up on who's being played in what roles.
So first thing I want to bring up is the Rel adjustment here, given a lot more damage in her Q&E towards jungle camps. Lost a bit of tankiness to compensate, but overall what we're seeing now is a move in towards the jungle here, being played both in the LEC and LCS. It was previously viable in the jungle, but we hadn't really seen it at all in the LCO or internationally, but now starting to get a bit more popularity as a kind of pseudo-engaged champion, kind of akin to a Maokai or a Sejuani.
Yeah, beyond that for me as well though, like I'm still looking at the nerf champions and saying Nico changes don't make a difference, we're still going to see it. We'll get into item changes later, but we're still going to see LeBlanc. I think realistically, yeah, Varus nerfs were to stop top lane AP Varus, like very niche stuff here. Generally in the Aphelios changes were like 15% off the activated healing from his Severum Q, and then a bit off the actual healing from the auto attacks, which is meant to be significant, right? But at the same time, Aphelios still does his job, and globally is still like a top 3 ADC in terms of presence. So like these are good changes in that they wanted to go the right direction, but they didn't kill the champions off.
Yeah, and a lot of those changes you can try and make up for in other champion picks throughout the team, any item pickups as well. But the one column that we haven't talked about just yet is that buff. The Nidalee, Lee Sin, we don't really have to go too much into what changed for them, Max, but will we be seeing these champs? Do you think there is a potential to see them in playoffs?
I think Lee Sin we will see. We have a bunch of prolific Lee Sin players. Why not Schönfire, just off the top of my head, come to mind. Something like Nidalee on Babip, if he ends up playing. Lee Sin just getting a bunch of damage for almost no reason on his Q. He was competitively viable, like sort of on the fringe before, but now just a much stronger early game duelist, and I definitely think we're going to see him in the playoffs.
All right, awesome. Like to see some new champs thrown into the pool, especially for playoffs weeks. The items, this is what you're waiting out for, Rusty. We can talk a little bit more on them. The 4 main items getting changes in this 13.13 patch.
Yeah, so a lot of the changes are about like energizing for the Static Shiv and for the Storm Razor. Storm Razor getting a buff to try and bring it more in line with Static Shiv while it's being taken down. And you know, the thing is, like, the TLDR is Static Shiv's nerf for PvE. Not nerfed as much for PvP, but it's still a prolific item. Like the fact that you were saying this earlier, Max, the fact that it's still being pick banned even after these nerfs speaks to how strong it was and still is. Storm Razor, for me, like it kind of is just a Kai'Sa item. And so, like, if Static Shiv gets nerfed enough, Kai'Sa's just going to pick this one because it's been buffed instead and still be strong. And again, yeah, nothing massive in these changes, more early game focus.
And to go back to the Static Shiv point, right, its main strength has always been wave clear, that's why it's still being built, and now people are just compensating by going minion demat. You chuck minion demat on the range minions, you suddenly still one-shot the wave, right? So yes, it was a nerf, but in terms of actual gameplay, there are ways to compensate that make up for this patch.
You're going to be happy about that, Skim, that we're still going to be seeing a bunch of Static Shiv around.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, Zeri build, ever since the changes, Zeri's still going to be rushing that as the go-to item. No surprises there. Obviously, you're going to still see it on all your mages, like your Zoe LeBlanc, looking to try and still get that tempo, that control in the lane. So despite it being a little bit too strong and almost like designed for your Kaels and whatnot, it's basically become a case of, well, we're just going to lock this one in. You can buff, nerf it, but hey, we're still locking that one in. So happy to see it.
Perfect, I love it. So that's going to be the 13.13 changes. There's some potential things picked out and some things that might not be changed at all. But looking back, when we talked about that playoffs bracket, we talked about the week that was going to be spare and the grand final occurring after it on that Sunday. And if you guys want, we got a little special watch party happening at Fortress Sydney. So on Sunday, July 30th at 5:30 p.m, it's kicking off. $12 entry does include a free drink. It will be $150 prize for best dressed and a League of Legends theme quiz. So we talked about how we're all collectively 4 of us going to run there after broadcast, right?
Sprint, I think. Nat said she was going to sprint. We'll be in the car next to her. That is.
I'll be running side by side,
yeah.
pace for pace, matching you guys as you drive there.
You can run like 80 kilometers an hour?
Easily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can go that
Well,
fast
you're
at
breaking
Sydney,
the speed limit over there, Max.
Are we? I don't drive. I'm not from Sydney, guys, so I don't know the speed limits here. Melbourne, we're doing 140.
Oh, Melbourne is doing 140.
Yeah.
Melbourne are reckless down there. Yeah, no, most speed limit's around 60. Yeah, man.
Okay, well, we won't be doing that. You can probably run.
You can run 60.
Absolutely
Back
not.
yourself.
Really, in
I
the
mean,
ring.
Back yourself,
yes,
Matt.
I definitely will be running 60 kilometers an hour all the way over to Fortress Sydney. And Skimmy's just going to be sitting there. We got from the fans as well, so if you guys want to be featured on broadcast to kick off playoffs week, we are asking you guys your favorite playoffs memories. So use the hashtag LCO, submit some of your favorite LCO playoff memories. Actually, we gotta go all the way back to OPL as well if you really want. It doesn't have to be just LCO. So let's see if there's been any submissions, if anyone has told us some of their favorite playoffs memories. It's Lavina said every single why not dance. Duh.
Why stop at playoffs, Lavina? Why stop at playoffs?
That's just LCO.
Just
favorite
general
LCO
memories.
moment. Yeah.
Yeah. No bias either. But it's a good memory.
We got another one as well coming up. Which wait. You guys gotta reenact favorite why not dance.
No. Production cuts to 2 shot. They're like, mistake.
He's really bad now. Really bad now. We need to bring one into that one. Ooh. Day 1, Max, and you're already trying to get us cancelled. Kezi submitted one saying, spending it with my LCO, hashtag dare iced coffee, hashtag menu pog.
Checks in the mail, mate. Checks in the mail.
Hashtag
You're getting half of Max's day rate over there from all of our
Thanks, Max.
sponsors. Thanks, Max. I appreciate
It's
it.
very kind of you, Max.
We got one more from the fans here. Coach R said that time when Tron picked
Yes.
Olaf and said it's Tronning time and started Tronning on everybody. Rest in peace, Tron the Pond.
He did Tron on everyone.
He did.
Yep.
R.I.P. the king.
Yeah.
RIP.
Not dead, to be clear.
Yeah, just
Retired.
retired.
Yeah.
Which
Which,
is really
you know, admittedly, esports retirements are the most fickle thing you've ever heard in your
Oh,
life.
yeah.
Yeah,
no.
we'll see you next
He'll be
split,
back.
Tron. Thank
Tron,
you
we'll
so
see,
much.
we'll see you
We
very
appreciate
soon.
it.
Tron, enjoy your holiday.
Enjoy your time off. No, that is unfortunate. Great memories, though. Maybe we'll make some more memories in this playoffs. Maybe you guys will have some more times that you can tweet about your favorite moments as we do jump into our first matchup here. It's going to be Bliss up against Direwolves. And this Bliss roster coming in first, having a fantastic performance for themselves. Lived, Why Not, Daystar, Lemus, Akia. They are the team to beat at the moment.
They're the team to beat at the moment, and they seem to have a very clear game plan of how they win games, right? They know exactly how they want to draft. They want to have an explosive mid laner who's able to make plays for either a bot laner or a top laner to step up and carry supplementary to that. So to me, this is a team that's very scary because they actually haven't been tested to show that much, right? They've been playing very similar drafts for the most part, which leaves a whole host of things in the bag for this very creative team to bring out.
Certainly true, and for me it's the confidence from Bliss. More than anything else, like what is it that Akia brings to this team? And you could say it's like an X factor, it's an unspoken thing, but like it's very clear that this guy will just pick Blitzcrank and will throw hook off cooldown, right? And that's a level of confidence that you don't see in many supports in our league and in our region. Like if I was to say, who do you think is an aggressive or creative support? Your answers probably were Aladoric until this split. Now Akia, Yersan, these other new players come into the mix, and that has really helped Bliss form this identity where Why Not can carry but doesn't have to, where bot lane can carry, where sometimes they were very hit or miss in how they played, and really rounds out this composition and this team's potential in the league.
Do you
There it is.
There it is, the exact one you did too, Max.
I saw it earlier and I was like, it stuck in my brain, so I had to
That's
get
all.
it out.
That's actually the
I
only
had
one
to
that
get
you
it out.
could remember. I just had to do it. Why not make me do it? Bliss, like you guys have said, all these win conditions for them. They're able to rely on so many different players for them. What is the biggest win condition for them, though, Max, because of the similar drafts that we've seen over the last few weeks for them?
Mid lane.
Mid lane,
Daystar
all
is-
the importance there?
Yeah, Daystar's... I mean, not all the importance because that's overshadowing everyone else on Bliss who's doing an amazing job, but they just play so well around mid lane.
Yeah.
A lot of that's due to Arca and Why Not just linking up. They seem to have the best play around mid lane with their support moving up, able to contest Herald at the right times, and I think that if Daystar's enabled, he doesn't really make mistakes. He doesn't slip up and cost you a lead.
Yeah, well, that's going to be a big feat then for Chaz, who is coming up against him in the mid lane on Direwolves. Zoranus, Shaka, Chaz, Praetor's Decoy. Now, the last time these two teams faced off, it was in week 1, and that's when Direwolves still had Poltron on the list. So it's not necessarily the same 5 players coming up against each other. It's a new, improved Direwolves that, you know, now have potentially a slight advantage over the old roster that they were playing with.
I think the difference back then when we watched is just the amount of freedom that Lemus had to try and actually play out those team fights. You saw Praetor really trying to find a way because he was constantly getting flanked upon, right? We're always trying to attack in a very systematic front-to-back fashion, and Bliss, to their credit, which is always finding the angles, always getting the ways to shut these carries down. And as you quite rightly say, right, a very different roster from then up until now. And I do really wonder if Direwolves have come into a bit of a form check of their own now. You see Praetor here picking up the Pentakill and the Kaiser. That's another big standout point for me, is the fact that both him and Lemus have had these phenomenal moments on that champion, so I'm expecting that one to be highly contested. But I'm just hoping to see a little bit more creativity, which certainly was the case when we've seen obviously now Shaka play. Some new junglers have a much stronger, 3v3 if he were to roam towards bot lane.
And remember that they've just spent the past like 3 weeks in the Braum Hyperbolic Time Chamber.
Yeah.
They weren't allowed to play other supports because they weren't coordinating with their jungler very well. Last week was the first time we saw them really branch out from that style, right? We got the Rel, we got more aggressive champions from Decoy, and suddenly it felt like they found that creativity, right? They found more of those angles that you're seeking and trying to find. So I have a lot of excitement, I feel like, for this Direwolves team, but this is a tough matchup for them to show that creativity at its highest level.
Yeah, it was nice to see that. I am just hoping that it was something in the back ends that they wanted to perfect a little bit more in scrims, in replays that they were watching, and they were like, all right, this is it. This is our chance before playoffs to really sort of showcase it. Would you rate the chances a lot higher in this matchup now, Max, compared to week 1?
Maybe like 2% higher. I still
Only
don't think it's very
2%?
easy. No, because what they haven't shown me, Nat, is they haven't shown me that they can still actually play a stable early game And against a team like Bliss, you're just going to get, like, they're just going to walk all over you if you don't have that. And I think that to me, yes, they're a good 30-minute team. I still think Bliss is a better team at 30 minutes, right? So then what are the strengths of Direwolves heading in today?
Yeah, well, look, we can ask Direwolves players that later, but for now, we got Bliss. We got Why Not joining us here, so we can ask him, why not? How are you feeling into playoffs now? You guys feel it's any different, any more pressure, or are you just like, it's another day in the office?
I think it just feels pretty similar to regular season in the sense that we have our opponents that we can see on our schedule, right? So tonight is Direwolves, and we're always going to go for the win. We're always going to expect that we are going to perform and going to win. So not really any extra pressure. I'd say if anything, it's more excitement, right? Should be 2 series and then hopefully qualify to PCS. And tonight is the start of that playoffs journey.
So could be a potential 2 series. You could also be playing as many as 4 series this week. Has the preparation been like behind the scenes, knowing you could play as many as 4 best of series this week?
I think we're just pretty focused on the immediate opponent ahead. Obviously, we have pre-prep for other teams because we versed Mammoth and Chiefs previously as well. So we're probably going to assume that we're going to perform well and we're going to prepare. And if worst case, we'll just prepare for the next game and we'll win those ones too. So it's just one game at a time, making sure we're confident for the upcoming ones.
Now, it is a different Direwolves roster you guys are coming up against. Was there a lot of extra prep that needed to go into it? Do you rate your chances pretty similar to when you versed in week 1? Or are you seeing this Direwolves as a very different roster in how they've grown and how they've placed, and now you have to change up a little bit of what you're doing here in playoffs?
Yeah, I'd say talking about the Direwolves roster, obviously there's a jungle shift there from Poltron to Shaka. I'm not sure if I rate Shaka too highly this split. I think last split, he was looking pretty strong, honestly, from scrims and that kind of stuff. But I think it was, behind the scenes for them, it was a lot of the solo laners and the solo laners' strength and maybe pulling him around. I think he looks quite lost, honestly, this split. Maybe trying to integrate with Direwolves. So I'm not really sure how much stronger they are than the last time, but I am very confident in saying that we are far stronger than the last time we played. And the last time we played was 2-0. So we'll see if we can replicate those results tonight again.
That's tough. Now, speaking of replication, does the tweet game change? Does the tweet meta change for playoffs?
Haven't decided just yet. Maybe I should throw one up in the next few minutes. If I do, you guys can check it out at twitter.com/1. For to like and or retweet. But we'll have to wait and see how the meta develops throughout the playoffs for my tweets.
Well, how do you think the meta is going to develop in terms of actual gameplay in the playoffs? Are you guys going to be coming in with new ideas tonight, or is it still very stock standard? You don't think that 13.13 impacts you on Team Bliss too much?
I think being on 13-12 for quite a while, due to kind of issues last week, made it quite, not stale, but we kind of had it decently figured out. Everyone was pretty comfortable with what they had. Everyone was very comfortable with what the other teams had prepared as well. But playing a playoff straight up on a new patch, I think, is pretty beneficial for us, considering how much effort we put into prep and into kind of our view of the meta in the future, our forecast picks. So I think there will be some new picks. There will be some new champion priorities. Maybe we'll show some of it tonight. Maybe we'll save some for later. But, either way, I think there will be a bit of a mix-up. Maybe it'll develop as the week progresses, especially considering how these games go and how teams see what other teams prioritize. That's kind of the biggest thing. But I reckon, yeah, it'll be a new, fresh game, and hopefully it'll make for some entertaining watching.
Perfect. Well, looking forward to seeing that. Go run, get that tweet out, and good luck tonight.
Thank you very much. Code Why-Not-10 on the Bliss shop, and goodbye.
Cut him.
Yeah, get him out. I was wondering how long it was going to take before he brought that one up.
Not even just
I was
one.
going to say, surely we
Twitter.
give him one plug only.
That's what I thought.
Like, if you want to plug your Twitter, you don't get the plug.
Interviews are ad space, I get it, all right? But teams, I understand. But why not? Man, this dude's like personal Twitter, the shop as well.
My dude in his next interview, I swear, he's just going to stand up and start going through his carousel of clothing behind. Says, yeah, that's a really good point. But what would actually be great if you wore this?
Oh, it doesn't matter about, the tweet meta or the champion meta. It's all about the fashion meta. And let me tell you guys.
He looks comfy. He had the blanket set up on. He was
does.
cross-legged. It doesn't seem like he's taking this too harsh.
Yeah, I mean, that emulated with himself in that interview as well, the way he's giving answers. And it's not this pressure, it's just more excitement. There's higher stakes, great. But for us personally, it isn't that increase of pressure. It's just now there's a higher reward for what he says when we do win.
Isn't it funny that he's the antithesis of his own social media, though? He shows up on broadcast and he's this chill, relaxed guy, and his social media is wild. He just says the craziest stuff, and then he comes on. He's like, "Yeah, I'm just really happy to be here, ready to play some League of Legends."
I feel like that's like people in their social media is just like the same that we did for top laners. Like, you know, they play like these absolute like bulk, muscular like
What are you trying to
champions.
say about
and
They
top
watch
laners?
anime and hold hands.
I'm just saying, I
together.
know what your champion pool was when you played professionally.
Yeah.
And it was the
Karma.
inverse of what you looked
Karma.
in person.
Karma.
We're never going to live that one down.
And Camille, it was
Yes.
Karma and
You know,
Camille.
I went back to that game and
No,
like,
you didn't.
it's just a baby Max just playing Karma, just like
Oh,
hating
I
his
love it.
life.
Lift weights, lose top lane plates.
The only reason why I brought up top laners is not just to, shit talk Max over there, but it is also because we have the top laner from Direwolves, Zonas, joining us here. Zonas, do you agree with us here that, you know, the champions you play as a top laner is very different to your personality outside of the game?
Well, I want to go back to what you said about Karma. I think Karma's a Giga Chad top laner. That's
Hey, respect.
that's really respectful. I think playing these jacks like this set, that's not what a real top laner does. It's all about playing these enchanted top laners like Karma and Lulu. I think Shinky was on the tech.
That's my new favorite top laner right here.
Of course it is.
I've got a question for you. I want looking at the top lane opponents in the playoffs here. Obviously, a pretty strong talent pool. First of all, how would you rank yourself amongst those and Liv tonight, your opponent?
I think it's like, it's hard to say where exactly I started. Like I think my laning is generally stronger than some of the other top laners. I think Thean's like the other top laner who has decent laning. I'd say like Bio's good in terms of the macro sense, but his laning's not as strong. So I think it's kind of like hard to exactly put myself in a spot. But I will say like, I don't think Lived is that good at all. I think Bliss's team is just Team Daystar and full wards.
Okay.
That's some big talk. Because, you know, when it comes to Direwolves, we've talked about it a few times. You guys picked that Braum up a lot for yourselves. It also felt like you're very slow to pick up the Kai'Sa for Praedyth. So it almost felt that you were one of the slowest teams from our point of view to react to the patch change and the meta. Do you agree with this sentiment, or do you think that was just something you were holding back for regular split, and coming into playoffs with a new patch, you're not going to be as slow to react, and it could also be an advantage for you?
I think teams just have a different meta read on what is actually good and what's not, and then until you actually come to play the teams that like you're not screwing against, then you kind of learn whether your meta read was good or their meta read was good. So I think it's a bit of just like working out what's actually good and whether what we think is good is really like what's good.
Okay.
Now, speaking of scrims, take us through a bit how practice has been, right? Obviously, because with such a rush schedule, you never know who you could be playing up against next. Has that narrowed the pool of people you are actually playing against?
Like certainly our pool has been narrowed a bit, because obviously we're not swimming against Bliss, but in reality, it's not that bad because we're basically swimming against all the teams except Bliss and Vertex, right? So obviously, like with Kanga being knocked out, like there's less teams there, but that's not really the team we're looking to scrim against anyway. We're looking for higher quality opponents. So not really, I'd say.
Okay.
Look, last question, as well as you guys came up against Team Bliss in week 1. That's when you guys didn't have Shaka. You still had Poltron playing in jungle for you. Max was a little bit harsh. He only gave you a 2% increase in advantage. Yeah, I'm throwing you under the bus here. Would you rate yourselves higher? Do you think, you know, there's more increase, 10, 20? Like, give me some arbitrary numbers on how much better you think this roster is when you come up against Team Bliss now.
Look, I think the first week was completely a write-off. I'd say we're 200% better, at least.
All right, I love it. That's the confidence I would like to see for you guys. Thank you so much, Zonas, for joining us, and good luck today.
Thank you.
I love the question.
I was a bit off.
Arbitrary number.
Yeah,
Like, just
I like
give me a
it.
number without
give me
reason
a
and on a
feel.
whim.
Yeah, I mean, is 200% not an arbitrary, though? He could have said 100, and I would have been like, all right, that's fair. 200. All right, that's also fair. If he had to give me 5, I would have been like, nah, bro, I'm going to need some backing for that one.
I just love Max's face. She's like, come on, bro.
You actually sold me so hard.
Come
Oh,
on,
he
man.
said you got 2% better. I'm just sitting there looking at the guy like, oh, okay.
I've literally just called you my favorite top laner right
Yeah,
after talking to Max.
I did.
But you know he's an absolute Chad because he says Karma's the best. That's
Yeah.
the guy that would play Smite Jana back in the day top lane. Like
He was that guy.
He will be that
Get
dude.
lost.
Well, look, he's that guy.
We don't need
He
stats.
plays
We don't need
Teemo top.
reason. We're all about arbitrary things over here, Rusty.
I remember how that lost very well. He died near the wolf camp from Arthur and Alidoric, who roamed at level 3 to kill him.
It's not about the loss, mate. It's about the courage, the
I
backing
think-
convictions.
You
I
missed
think
100%
It's
of the
about the loss
spears,
with the
you
Janna
dumb.
top player. It's about the loss with the Janna top player.
All right, well, the side select for this best of 3, Team Bliss coming in. They are the highest seed, so they get to pick up the side for themselves. They've gone for blue side here. Not really too surprising, I've got to say, even though it is.
They have picked red before.
Yeah.
Like Bliss are one of the few teams that have done the switch up with their side select. Like red side was always the Daystar side of the Rift, and you heard from Zoranus it's Daystar and 4 wards. But blue side is less of a mid-centric draft a lot of the time. So, you know, to me it is a bit different.
Okay, yeah. It was more the red side pick for them. Had always felt like dipping the toe in the pool. We'll see how the temperature feels, if it is something we are really comfortable on. But when you're coming into that new patch, we've always talked about how blue side does give you that advantage to ban out what you think is meta. We'll see if it's going to be the same sort of champions that Direwolves think are meta, and the ones that they're a little bit sad to see banned out for themselves. But it is a best of 3. We could potentially be seeing 3 games of league action. And to start us off for game 1, you guys can have your say in the Dare fan vote up there in the top right-hand corner, right next to, above, adjacent, diagonal to the Dare fridge.
Good directions. you covered every single possible.
Dare
I
fridge.
did.
That way.
It could be this way, anywhere
Italic.
in this
That was spoken by
vicinity.
like somebody learning English, and like I'll just chuck every word and hope it describes what I'm trying to say.
Within 3 meters of this
One of
fridge.
these
Yeah.
words will mean it.
If you put 90 degrees around that fridge this way, the box will be there to do your Dare fan
It's
vote.
hard to do.
There. It will be somewhere around there
That's
in Rusty's hand range there. I've gone for a 2-0 myself. Max
Great
hitting
work.
23 points, has gone for the 2-0 for Team Bliss. Skimmy changing it up though. He's got the 2-1. So you have faith Direwolves might have the perfect recipe in one of the games to get a win.
I'm always a big fan of seeing a series go the full distance. I love the drama. I love the expression of skill. Personally, I would just love to see Direwolves showcase that skill upgrade from a different roster from the performance, 6 weeks ago now. I'd love to see them come into this one and showcase something new, or just, really give Bliss a run for their money.
So you feel that the 200%, the arbitrary number thrown up from Zoranus, very much accurate?
I think there's a world in which they definitely can win. I know Bliss are going to be coming into this one as the heavy favourites, but there's definitely potential for Direwolves to take a game away, and if they get the right read on the meta, then they can certainly take the whole series. So I'm still going to go for Bliss as the overall winner. I just think there's a little bit more recency bias and just consistency across the board, right, to back your bet on. But yeah, I'd love to see Direwolves come into this one and at least steal one away.
Those teams that we said goodbye to earlier in the show, Kanga and Ground Zero, we actually asked them for their predictions as well for this playoffs, who they saw as the teams going to be taking away the series. So 4 of the Kanga players went for Team Bliss, and 1 of the Kanga players went for Direwolves. I don't know if we know who the one that went for Direwolves was.
Call them out.
We don't know, so we can't call them out. You're safe. You're safe this time around, let me put it that way. But most of the team on Kanga is going for Team Bliss.
I mean, I'm just more surprised that someone actually picked Direwolves, right? To me, this speaks to this is probably a really bad scrim set that happened, and they just got ran over by Direwolves, and now they've got mental block against them. But it is interesting to see that teams actually think that Direwolves can win, right? Because overwhelmingly, none of us picked it, right? I don't think many of the fans will either.
Yeah.
So behind the scenes is a different perspective.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, you talk about the mental block, but that could come out in teams, in champions being picked. Sometimes we get some random bans thrown out there as well, and we're just like, hold on, where did this one come from? But more often than not, it is something in the back scene that we don't really know about. But the fun part about this new patch, 13.13, is that we are going to probably see some new champions, but we're definitely going to be seeing some champions right now as we got Game 1 draft.
That's what we're going to do, guys. Let's kickstart the playoffs. Day 1 and our very first upper bracket best of 3 with a chance to see exactly what both teams' read is on the meta as such. Direwolves, they're going to remove away not only the Kaiser, but the Jace as well. A composition which Bliss have been very comfortable with in the very past few weeks. As for Bliss, though, their opening bans are deny away that Rel. You're looking a little bit too good now. You've deviated away from the Brom.
A little bit too
and
good,
take away Chaz playing the Nanny.
And the Nico going to be taken away as the 3rd ban here on the blue side by Team Bliss. So LeBlanc probably going to be considered in the list of champions. With the static shift changes, you're not looking at like, oh, maybe LeBlanc's not 100% pick ban anymore because she loses that wave clear. You heard from Maximize that they can compensate with DMAT. So is still going to be a champion, right? I looked at the LEC stats from this week gone. 100% pick ban presence still on that LeBlanc. first pick by Bliss. That should come as absolutely no surprise to anyone. This is an AD seed right now, though, that we have to admit, Skimmy, is rising the ranks for being a mid lane champion that's flexed to bot lane when it suits the comp better. And I'm curious because they've seen the LeBlanc, you know? Is that a matchup that plays out mid?
Well, to your point, I mean, as much as the Tristana can flex, same for the LeBlanc. We've actually seen it in the top lane. I remember watching it in the LCK into a Jax, which made life quite miserable for that Jax. So definitely there is potential for it to be flexed around.
To be fair, there is a one trick in the LCK who plays on hit AD LeBlanc top lane. So that's why we saw it.
Well, that's true. That's true. But there's a world.
Completely fair.
Given that Lift has been a mid laner before, there's potentially a world in which he has that still tucked away, ready to play in the top lane. So I'd be quite excited if they were to look to try and showcase that in game 1. But Rakan is going to be the pairing so far, and
hey, maybe you're right.
Begs the question: would you want to lock this in this early? Would be a little bit confusing, given you want to go into that next set of pick and bans and keep them guessing.
The one thing I will say for Bliss is they do play a lot of champions. I'm not expecting to see LeBlanc into like a Heimerdinger like you're seeing Hovered, but you have to acknowledge with a team like Bliss, everything is possible. And so they'll go towards the normal draft for now. But Daystar, who's known for having an absolute ocean of a champion pool, still has that consideration whenever you verse him, and that's why they're so dangerous.
Yeah, obviously the first one to play LeBlanc, right, and almost create this LCO meta towards catching up and figuring out the champion is broken, and Static Shiv is a must pick as a result. Ash, going to be the next pick up here from the side of Direwolf, so they've locked in 280 carries.
Yeah. Should put the Trist mid here. That should lock the Ashe in as the AD carry and Nautilus as a support. Now let's just acknowledge, of course, very quickly, Nautilus can jungle, it can get confusing if we really wanted to go down that pathway. But everything should play out as we expect. Direwolves have not been known for their hectic champion flexes. So it should just be Praetor's playing this Ashe. We've seen him play that before to a very high level of success, it must be said as well, and giving them those really good engage, off-screen engage angles in multiple lanes as well with those arrows. So don't have to play towards bot as your win condition. Can play towards mid, can play towards top lane if they would like. But already Direwolves have cemented themselves that Trist mid, no flex, no possibilities that will exist. And just quickly as well, you're moving into patch 13.13, Ashe seems to have risen to like top 3 in all of the AD carry options. And Rumble has also risen the ranks a lot. Like, we're seeing a lot of Rumble banned right now globally.
Yeah, Rumble's certainly one of those champions that has found a lot more success. We've seen it obviously from Dongy on the side of PGG, played in the mid lane up against the melee matchups in particular. Draven, the second ban, denied away then from Lemus, who we know is a very prolific Draven player, makes life very difficult then for the Ashe in lane. And I mean, Bliss aren't completely sold on this Nautilus bit of support just yet, right? 2 support bans. Obviously, we know that Milio and Ashe is a very proficient bot lane, but you know, Lulu fits the bill as well. Yeah,
they're getting rid of these enchanters that make the Ashe feel more comfortable. This, of course, Shaka loves playing the utility. If it's not Sejuani, it's Sejuani adjacent at the moment. And that will be the Nautilus confirmed as Braum gets locked in and decoy back to Braum duty. Is that worrying signs? Is the question. Have scrims been going well, Skimmy, or are we back to Braum duty to compensate?
Well, I wonder, because I mean, you brought it up earlier, right? And is this a case of saying that we expect Bliss to be very, very aggressive, and is Braum the band-aid to try and almost, you know, slingshot, elastic band that aggro back at them?
See, the thing for Braum picked 4th here for me is that it's into the Rakan, and it's almost a self-counter.
Yeah.
Like, Braum doesn't stop Rakan at all. Braum can do really well into the Xayah, but you have to be really careful with how you play this out, because if you put the door backwards to stop the feathers, you're still just attacking your head.
For sure.
Right? So it's not a perfect counter by any means, but there is a lot of potential counter utility there. Nautilus, Braum into the Xayah does make it pretty difficult to exist as Lemus in this comp as well. Team Bliss, though, will round their composition out with a Jax, which I believe puts the Poppy jungle. So both junglers playing for that utility. There is, to put it simply, there is utility everywhere in this game. You know, there's mobility, there's a lot of split push threat here from Bliss. They have a really protective 1-3-1 type of composition if they would like, and LeBlanc goes really well into the siege compositions, but they don't have good range. So I think they are looking for Jax as one of their primary avenues to win the game, and LeBlanc hovering between both of those respective lanes or just being played towards itself. Direwolves, they just have crowd control, and they have AD carries. That is their comp right now. They got a bunch of beefy boys, and then they've got 80 carries.
But that's what's interesting about this comp for me, Rusty, is the fact that if Direwolves can get that pick, if they can lock somebody down, their punishment potential with Siege is phenomenal. We obviously saw a very similar draft played by the Chiefs into Bliss, where it meant that if you made one mistake, they would turn away straight away to an objective like the Baron on spawn. That was gone in a blink of an eye, right? So I think there's a lot more elegance in what Bliss had to do to try and make sure they're 4-man, or if it is a 1-3-1, as you say, and plays it properly. But I think it's a style they've grown quite accustomed to. We've seen Liv for the best part of a few weeks now play these Fioras, these Jaxes, Castantes to a degree as well, and be very at ease, making sure that the rest of his team is on one page, and he's always going to be a menace, trying to force out, or at least bait, either a gank or a TP.
Yeah, for sure. Liv seems to be more comfortable lately, more confident lately in playing those carries, and has certainly come into fine form. Of course, working with the rest of his team, and it feels like right now a giant flag post, however, has been placed in that bottom lane with Lemus and Arkia always being the center of attention. Doesn't have to be in the bottom lane, just has to be the bottom laners getting absolutely everywhere. But a rare opportunity, Skimmy, for us and for you guys at home as well to see Bliss not on their standard composition, right? Not on the bread and butter Jace Kai'Sa that we've seen them play relentlessly in the past 2 weeks of LCO. An opportunity to see them try and play a little bit differently. LeBlanc actually up and available. Jax locked in for Liv. I think a lot of reasons to be excited if you're a Bliss fan, but still a really good comp for Direwolves.
There certainly is, and it's a chance for us to see what it looks like when playoffs comes around. No longer is it a best of 2, it is a full-on best of 3 that the viewers have all been waiting for. And no doubt the teams as well, as they get to showcase a few more creative strategies. And perhaps that comes in a form of a creative level 1 at the same time as well. You can see then walking up to place the ward in the top pixel bush. Waiting to see if anything were to occur. I'm quite excited also for this Gragas coming out as that last pick here for the side of Direwolves. I think there's definitely a lot of laning agency that Zoranus can find here, and if you can get ahead, you can definitely keep this Jax split push condition down.
Nothing leveled just yet from the Gragas until he saw lived in the bush and then leveled that body slam up. So this is definitely one of those lanes where, like you highlight, agency can be found. Gragas is usually a banned champion when the Jax gets locked in third into like a 4-5, but the Gragas was actually up and available, was actually pickable this time around, and it's a great nullifying pick that can build AP and continue to clear waves, right? So it can continue to stay somewhat relevant into that scaling matchup that Jax will always have. So maybe he does outscale in the 1v1 duel, but if the wave's dead, Jax can't split, job's done, basically. And then I think alongside that, you know, you're looking at the split push threat of the Tristana more than the Jax anyway. So while we looked at Bliss and said this could be considered a 1-3-1, or for me it's like a 1-3 with a floating Daystar who gets to kind of choose whatever he would like. I still look at Direwolves and say, well, Ashe, Braum, Nautilus, Gragas, you don't dive that. You can't dive that. First of all, they put a door up and cast you away, and that's it.
What's that?
Ashe Arrow lock you onto turret if you're not careful. But a Tristana, left alone to her own devices, will just take towers.
Certainly will. Once the rapid fire is ready to rock and roll, you are in a lot of trouble. And I think to your point, you know, the ability to leap in is the Jax, or that is the Rakan, even the Poppy to some degree. You make that one botched attempt, there is that punishment, there is that displacement, and Direwolves can look to really capitalize on it. You saw some pretty aggressive trading there just before in the top lane, to be expected. And you can see Zoranus at the moment unable to even settle to wave to get any of those minions as a result. But why not here? Utilizing the bot lane priority is on Vision. Going to go for the enemy blue.
Shaka
Unless
committing
Shaka
to
has
this one.
something to
Looks
say
good.
about it.
Chaz actually going to be first here from the mid lane. Is LeBlanc going to have to try and cheat tempo to match it? Dial's just going to show up as a 4-man unit, and they will be able to push them away.
Not before reset, but enough to regen up a fraction. And Shaka can just now complete that one uncontested. Why not though? Looks like his job's not finished just yet. Still hovering.
Yeah, still
Just
considering
expecting.
it. They vision though, so they'll know if he goes into the area. Does that? It does see him, just barely. Angry Bees. Almost like an acknowledgement, but the Scuttle Crab is his ultimate goal here. Smite still available for Why Not as well, so if he sees an enemy champion, immediately smite that one. It is safe. Little trade bottom, and I think just a good example, while Praetor is low on mana, of what can happen into this Rakan-Braum matchup. You cannot stop a Rakan engaging, but you also cannot punish the Rakan for engaging as the Braum. That's the issue with this 1v1 between the support champions. Now, if your AD carry has crowd control, that can be equalized. So if Rakan looks to ult, looks to go in, suddenly there's an Ashe Arrow on your face as well as a Braum Q auto attack. You can actually CC lock the Rakan. But even then, if there's Merc Treads, just gets the safety back to Lemus. So this is why Rakan is such a powerful pick, right? You can actually just rush those Merc treads into that enemy comp, I think, pretty happily. And you will always be able to engage and pretty much guarantee that your life will still be there after.
That a concussive blows is never going to truly activate, as you say. Doesn't certainly seem to be a case of picking the Brom, though, for the laning phase, much more around the team fights, which I suppose is what we're looking towards, right? The fact that Team Bliss have been so explosive in those first 15 minutes. We have heard from a number of occasions that Direwolves want to have these very standard laning affairs. But it isn't going to be that case. You know how aggressive this LeBlanc can be, especially when it is going towards that selection of rush first item. Thankfully, Decoy's read this one beautifully, and he's here to assist.
That does mean that Chaz does not have to use his jump to safety, so he gets to stay in lane just a little bit better. They start with only the long sword, however. Neither of them really willing to recall just yet. Does mean they'll both have a pretty solid base when they get back pretty soon. But just a little roam from both supports off that reset to see if they can find an opportunity. Nothing to be found. Drake probably the next point of contention here. But for the side of Direwolves, there's going to be no bot side camps for a little while, right? You just saw them take those. So for Shaka, if he comes down here, will be wasting time potentially with nothing to gain.
Just chilling at the moment in the mid lane, just on a control ward, guaranteeing that he has not been spotted.
Great skin, isn't it, with the smiley face? You can see the happy eyes.
So they will be happy if a gank were to work in their favor. Nothing to be found so far in these first 16 minutes of open play.
A hook onto Lemus would be a good opportunity, but he also has the cleanse. And this is, again, I still don't see how they have kill threat on bottom unless it's Bliss being aggressive and being punished for it with Shaka's roam. Why not about to see them as well? So this could just be countered really hard.
What's a hard force now, isn't it? It's a flash in from Shaka. There's the passive. Drag them back, bring down Arkia, and find it successfully. There is your first blood. There is the mistake, and it is being punished.
Yeah, really well done by Direwolves. Really good at finding that opportunity. Just a wide flank as well from Shaka, almost guaranteeing there was no escape path. Super well executed from them as well. They actually layer that crowd control. Arkia dies with the flash up. He's going to be closer to those Merc treads on that base, but not quite there yet, so they get him while they can. And Dials will net themselves this Drake. Shaka, what could have been time wasted, was actually time well spent. And Why Not doesn't even see him here, just barely from the looks of it. He's sitting there half a second off, finishing those Krugs. Shaka gets through in just that time, and just like that, gets stun locked and dies. Could not have timed it better.
It's just the beauty of two melee champions, right? Able to guarantee the active during the passive of the Nautilus there. And yeah, the CC layering certainly working in their favor. Does net them the very first dragon as a result of that as well. Question then becomes then, really, where do we expect to see this first bit of aggression come out from Bliss as a result? Last time it was Daystar. I believe it was a 12-0 game from him. Multiple solo kills found. You can see there from the Dare fan vote as well. A lot of us aligned on the same page, and 83% of you believing that they'll take this one.
Well done from Arkia here as well. Stops the recall of Decoy, buys themselves some time. Arkia could also just use his relic proc on this wave, get the money, go back to base, and it'll be closer to those Merc treads or first item. But you also know that even if that doesn't happen, you stop Decoy from basing, you stop some farm or some shopping from the enemy support, which could give you that slight advantage. Why Not level 6 to 5 of Shaka right now? You can see him hunting. Might just be a red steal, Skimmy.
Does Shaka know, is the question I'm wondering though. Because she's just going to walk in, say, how do you do? And thank you very much.
Yeah, even charges the red buff. Just wanted the red. Even pushed it, I think, out of vision of Shaka there, to be honest. Do we take those? Herald on the cards here as well, 8 minutes in. You can see the priority every time we've looked top lane. It seems like the Jax is in relatively good control of the game and of his lane. And altogether, you know, I mentioned this for Arkia, but I really want to clarify this for everybody. Daystar at risk right now with Praetor being 6. In fact, Direwolves with the rare 5-man grouping with the Ashe already level 6 could be really good for them.
Yeah, it's actually forced a response from the bot lane of Team Bliss at the same time. First 5v5 of the game. There's only 9 minutes into this one. Out goes the Keeper's Verdict nicely. That's Decoy knocked out of the fright. That's Liv jumping in with the counter strike. That's stun connecting from the Ashe arrow. The Herald's still in suspension, but the fight soon to break out, which results in 2 kills so far being found by Bliss. Lemus Nearly one on the response there as Chaz flashes the wall to get the reset on that rocket jump, but where does he jump now? Because the grand entrance just connects! And as he leaps into the river, Liv says hello, says thank you very much, and the Jax goes back to top with 2.
And 4-2 now suddenly is the kill score between Bliss and Direwolves. Massive team fight victory here for Team Bliss. And remember, it's the fight that Direwolves choose to take, a team that is notoriously rough in their early games. Fine opportunity, Shaka with a sick hook hitter buffer through the Poppy ultimate, keeps him in the area. Stun comes through, it hits the Poppy. They're locked down, but Decoy's not here to get those stun combos off. Is not here to get the follow through, and Decoy's a large part of their early game skirmishing strength. Chaz flashes the wall to get the reset. Praetor dying to live and Daystar though through all of this. And then a really nice max range clipping of the W there as Lived, who early left the fight on Praetor to acknowledge that he was dead, came over and was timed perfect to pick that one up.
And what was already looking like a very rough lane in that top half of the map has certainly become even more in favor now for Liv, right? Easily able to rush that Sheen, come back to lane and continue to flex his might as a result. Feels so hard done by Fadai, was having hard to force that play with 5. Forced to lick their wounds.
Next flash used, could not quite find the mark. Why not going to dash forwards here? But it doesn't feel like anything happens until the Nautilus gets here. Brawl.
Oh, it's the Glacial Fissure, but a little bit disconnected there from the Ash Arrow. Max range from the hook though. Shaka is here, and for a second time in a row, they pick apart Arkia. And a failed gank from Bliss goes backwards.
The Brawl may miss, but the Ash ult does not. Zoranus actually copping it in top lane as well. Good little play from Direwolves here. A very important one at that. They also have the Rift Herald to be summoned.
Oh, he's in a lot of trouble. And oh, it's the ultimate on his head at the very last moment there. Holds his nerve there. Doesn't actually burn the flash despite Liv leaping in with that.
Doesn't quite get the kill. Still, fantastic stuff here from Lived, controlling his lane. Merktread's value across the composition of Bliss here is incredibly high. You know, top lane, you can build that pretty freely because it's a Nautilus jungle, while in magic damage top laner. Like, this is the easiest game for Poppy and Jax to itemize early. The difficulties will be the Ashe and the Tristana, right, being most of the damage. So they probably go Merktreads into armor, and then I think they're just happy for the rest of the game. Tristana is the one with the Herald to be summoned as well, must be said. Has had a hard time actually with this lane now the Static Shiv is done and priority is always there. You know, where is Chaz going to go to summon this Herald? And can he go anywhere that isn't mid, is the question.
Yeah, going to be very hard to bully this LeBlanc out of lane without any form of assistance, especially now that the Static Shiv is complete. Really are relying on another successful skirmish, perhaps around this next Drake, to give you that golden opportunity.
No teleport though for Zoranus, so it's all about the rest of the map.
Creative though, one stepping up very aggressive as a result. He might just die before the fight really breaks out. There is the Featherstorm, there is the recall, the ult, the disengage, and the TP in as Direwolves really want to hard force this one. Why not pokes his head into lane and instantly disengages away? And Chaz, thinking he may have had a moment, is unable to summon the Herald as a result.
Yeah, mid lane just going to crash this wave in. I mean, this is still a win for Bliss if nothing happens. Lived going back to base because Zoranus, or he's going to cancel it. Zoranus keeping him extremely busy in top. So expect no top laners to be here if a fight happens immediately. But the slower this plays out, the more effort Direwolves put into the Drake, the better it starts to feel for Bliss.
Top lane again, so low as Zoranus goes in once more, chucks at the ult for the second time, but this one almost a helping hand to force Liv back to base as he can return with that TP, but it is going to be Bliss then, successfully picking up Dragon number 2.
Well, he's very nicely in this game now. Items starting to be completed for all of Bliss as well. Only 1,000 gold is the actual effective gold difference. But with that said, I still think Direwolves have a really strong fighting chance through their bot lane right now, being able to make those plays. Chaz is still farming. You saw him get the kills at the Herald skirmish, so they just need to get those mythic items before they start to really force those plays.
Did we see the Herald get summoned, or was it just timed out?
That's exactly what I was looking for.
Because I don't see it active anymore for Chaz.
And mid has 5 plates. So if it was summoned, it died.
That's exactly it. Usually our observers are the ones to quickly pan towards it, so even they are as confused as we are.
I guess it couldn't have been.
So it just is going to be a Static Shiv versus Static Shiv matchup in the mid lane. As Chaz responds, then they really will be just wrangling for control.
And you know what I think is disgusting about Static Shiv is that you can build it and then you just build a Hextech Alternator or a Blast Wand, and then suddenly the ranged creeps die. That has always been the most disgusting thing about it. That is like, Ziggs used to be a meta mid lane champion. I don't know if this is like dating me in terms of meta, but it got nerfed specifically for its wave clear. Echo used to be meta in mid lane. Specifically got nerfed because its Q would one-tap ranged creeps.
Yeah.
And that's a little bit too powerful in mid lane. Yeah, well done, Akia. Fair claps for Akia.
Lemus not happy about that one, that's for sure. That's a lot of burst though. Anything you can do, I can do better, says the Tristana.
Had to commit the ult though in that one, and the cooldown for Daystar is going to be shorter even if they traded, which they didn't. Direwolves, however, have got agency. They'll move down towards the bot lane tower. That reset not coming through from Lemus hurts.
It's a really good tempo swing, isn't it? Because the fact is that Daystar's to go back to base to mid lane. He's not there to assist and come down bot side as well. The fact that Lemus, as you quite rightly point out, isn't able to go back to base on times that he would have liked does mean that Wino has to force up this Herald on his own, and they are just going to lose the first tower at 15 minutes in the bot lane as a result.
Yeah, trade the best they can with this Herald, but the reality is, and Direwolves have done this countless games before, they will just play for gold, right? They're willing to sacrifice. That's why this first Herald fight was almost a surprise to us, because they don't always contest those. They will usually, Praetus will never be there. He will stay bottom, he will get 3 plates for that trade, and the rest of Direwolves will just buy space or buy time for him by delaying the Herald or the Drake or whatever the objectives may be. You know, 3 Drakes in, they'll start their fights. That's pretty standard in the playbook for Direwolves. The second Herald timing though, they break a full turret for him, super worth it. But the first one was a fight, and that was the one fight that went wrong for them.
Yeah, speaks to the adaptations or perhaps the preparation that they've gone into this opposition, knowing that they're going to be very aggressive, so maybe we need to up our game as a result as well. As we do break our laning assignments up, and certainly now find our mid lane planted in bot. As we wrestle for control of the river and really look for angles to try and find that engage.
A tough point though in the game for Chaz, it feels like, if top lane's just going to stay planted there against one another. He's got the long lane he has to deal with. I think he's lucky it's a static shift LeBlanc that will be permanently pushing, but it feels like we're going to Chaz, and we're going to have Daystar moving towards mid lane, where their strengths are constantly. Herald to be summoned here. You can see LeBlanc's already here. Tristana's already hovering. So we potentially have a fight, but I feel like dissuaded by just raw numbers by Bliss, and it won't happen.
Yeah, and it's just Bliss being there first, so it goes off successfully. You can see Liv hovering in the top side of the river as well, potentially expecting a fight to break out, a response from Direwolves. Not to be the case, however. Will just be that tower falling down for nothing. As the Ash Arrow goes out, trying to find its target, but Arkia a little bit too quick to evade this time.
And again, you have to be super careful because you're trying to throw these Ash Arrows at close range into a Merctread's tank Rakan, who has also got the Giant's Belt afterwards, and Braum doesn't have instant crowd control without the ult. Why not top lane here though? Flash.
Good flash.
Very good from Zoranus. I feel like that flash is failed even from pros, like it's a 50-50.
Oh, 100%, that's your pressure cooker right there.
It's like you see junglers go into practice tool and just like smite practice. Top laners should just go to that particular wall. That's how you warm up for a series. If you can hit that flash, you're warmed up.
You're certainly feeling good about your chances after that.
We should actually keep a counter for that one.
Feel like a little good mini game to keep ourselves tabbed in on. Protection there, as Shark is able to successfully pick up their own blue buff. You see a lot of attention thrown their way, though, by Bliss. Hungry in the area, having taken down that very first turret, but lived. Trying to be a little bit devious there, pushing the wave. Is now playing a game of chicken. Where could I be, Zoranus?
Oh, no.
Wait.
Zoranus failed successfully. Zoranus failed so badly it worked. It got the flash out of Liv.
He's happy about that one.
I've seen some things, Skivvy, but that's a good one. And now the reinforcements are here. They haven't spotted him.
Well, now they're saying, you've got no
they
flash.
Know now.
You're not living. You will fall on down. The Everfrost will start things off. Shaka to tank up the turret. And then 4 members rock up to the lane. And a Hawk will seal the deal as he goes with the counter strike and maybe takes down Decoy. But Predator puts an end to the party.
Doesn't quite get it, yeah.
Imagine if he took one down amongst 4.
That just should not have happened. Meanwhile, Bliss, they are just going to be pushing the bot lane out of turret. So it ends up being just this transaction with towers. little extra into the pockets, however, the Direwolves being able to get that kill onto Lived as well. I still think Liv's play was a bit of a head scratcher. Why was he there in the first place, taking this losing 1v1 willingly? Was he, like, you know, desperate to get this extra item from the gold of that wave's value? But no. No, he does just, I think, realize that the map state was bad for him, so he cut the wave as best he could.
Very entertaining though, wasn't it? The fact of that. Where could they be? I dare you to body slam across that wall and give me a free pass out of here.
And I mean, Zoradus just like looked, made eye contact with that Krug and was like, get out of the way.
He's like, tell me, Krug, which way did he go?
The Krug just puffed up its chest, man. It was like,
he became the Krug whisperer.
That's Cab.
Either way though, Bliss is starting to flaunt their attention towards this top half of the map. And make sure that Direwolves are dissuaded from having their double AD carries perched up and ready to go here.
And we are at a pretty big point for Team Bliss with their item spikes, particularly through their mid laner here. Decoy in a bit of trouble.
Certainly is. He does have the flash available, but he gets CC too much that he cannot flash away to safety. It comes out eventually. Shaka across the wall. Looking to try and slow down the engage. Wynock's the one in a lot of trouble, but it's actually going to be Lemus, the first one to fall on down. He burnt the cleanse, but not the flash, and falls on down to a grey screen. Lift is here with that TP, but it's a little bit too little, too late. And this is the punishment potential for Direwolves. If they get given a chance like this, they just turn to a lane and they siege.
I mean, Bliss put all of their efforts into trying to kill Decoy, who simply stands there, and that was actually close to maybe stopping him. Daystar's going to get the teleport off though. See if he can stop these recalls. He will. At least one of them. No further kills to follow. I was going to say, it's a big point for Team Bliss. You know, we're 20 minutes in, 230 CS and 2 items done for Daystar. So he's strong. His fight starts, but they're not getting any damage down. And only at this point where they realize Decoy's got no safety, will they Nautilus, flash, ult, Zoranus finds his target, CC locks Lemus, no way out for this AD carry. Even with the flash there, just got CC locked so perfectly, there was no solutions for Lemus at all. And that's kind of, you know, Bliss entertaining the team fight comp of Direwolves with a team fight by engaging onto the tank's support. Like, even if they kill Decoy there, you can't help but feel like that's a dangerous fight to take. So I think they were looking for the kill and out, but it came on a bit faster than they would like, and Decoy tankier than they wanted.
It's an interesting comparison given the last time these two teams met, it was Praetor in a similar situation where all the attention was thrown towards him. He was suffocated in a way, but now it's Lemus on the receiving end of that. Shown all the CC in the world, so he cannot perform. He cannot be given a chance with any form of uptime here with the Kraken Slayer available to them.
I mean, this is a scary Ashe. If you let Praetor freely hit Kraken Trinity Force, he will 1v9 team fights. Now, Bliss have tools to stop that from happening for sure, like LeBlanc simply existing. Jax means you cannot auto-attack. They've got really good ways to not just deal damage or stop him, but kill him as Zoranus. Baron's aggro too. Yeah,
Baron has been aggroed. Locket had to be popped just as an insurance policy there as Daystar goes across the wall to try and keep them interested a little bit longer. Meanwhile, Chaz, though, just an absolute menace, saying, come on, Jax, let's play split push. And he will do so successfully, taking their first 3 turrets. All the out is now gone. And as Chaz will march towards an inner turret.
Yeah.
And look how quickly that goes on down.
Gonna get all of the explosive charge stacks off there as well, and half HP on the turret before Daystar gets here to one-tap the wave. I mean, that's the risk. Braum can't stop your base. Gets that one off pretty freely in the end, but Direwolves now with control of the topside river as Baron is the primary objective on the cards. Drake in 30 seconds with the third of the game for Bliss if they find that one, otherwise an equalizer for Direwolves. But this is the part of the game where it gets tough, right? All of the outers are gone. And with that said, looking for that next step gets harder to do, right? Where is that next tower? What does that actually look like? These split push champions now need to go deeper to find that actual split pushing. And so this game now starts to become more delicate in how you play it out. You don't want to make mistakes. The punish could be really high. You go for a Baron Force when a Tristana's already on an inner turret, that's an inhibitor. You have to pay your respects to these comps now. The next mistake could be crucial, could be game losing.
Certainly does feel like that delicate dance of what are you willing to bait out, and are you happy to accept the consequences that could come from a fight that doesn't go the way you had it planned and had really hoped for. We'll say that Bliss have phenomenal flanking opportunities if they were to find themselves in a position to attack in that manner. Certainly a Jax Poppy, as well as a Rakan coming at you from every different direction, can punish the lack of mobility that an Ashe would have. Double summon is available at the moment, however, so it's still going to be very difficult to shut Praetor down. Certainly a consideration.
But mind you, right, like we're talking about the difficulties that it might be to be Praetor or to be Chaz in these team fights. Look at the role of the carries here for Team Bliss. Because you want to be a carry getting to their carries, you have to go through a Gragas, Nautilus, and a Braum that will stop you.
Yeah.
It's tough to execute. Those flanks are going to be important. Bliss are one of the best flanking teams that we have in our league at the moment. We've seen successful team fights from them repeatedly where they find those angles. But this is also an AP Gragas, so you can't make mistakes, so he could just one-hit a carry.
I think it stresses the importance not only of the flanking opportunities, but just how important this Poppy ultimate is going to be to separate the fight as well. We saw how impactful it was when they did knock back the Braum. Obviously, Shaka buffered it beautifully with the dredge line back in, but then removed from the mix. Certainly not as easy for the task.
Drake secured here, though, for what felt like a bit of Baron control, but the river control has been ceded once again. Wards in the pit now going to be control warded themselves, so Bliss with outright control of the river, constricting the movements of Direwolves who have planted their Tristana bottom to split push. I think if you're Bliss in this situation, you would love to find a set play that forces a teleport out of the Tristana. If not, then, you know, you've tried, but it'd be a great opportunity to try and find a teleport advantage if possible. Because right now, mid laners matching each other bottom with static shivs just means neither of them are going to do anything but farm. If you can cause a mismatch and they have to send a Gragas down to you, then suddenly it's a different game. You know, Tristana can't split, suddenly it's a different game for you, and you have that window to be a bit more aggressive in how you want to play it out.
You can see how rough it is for Liv then, trying to play it towards the side, which is dominated by more members. Playing towards that Baron half of the map, very difficult for him then to try and take that extra risk, given the fact that the vision does belong to Direwolves in the top half of this map, and that's it. Not going to be an easy task to walk up to that one without the rest of your team almost telegraphing that that is the play that's about to happen.
You know what I love about this first game though, Skimmy? 26 minutes into this one, not even really enough of a goal difference to say there is one between these teams. And Bliss and Direwolves, you know, Direwolves, a team who have been notoriously weak through their early games, say their strength is in team fighting. Well, we're hitting 30 minutes with a team fight composition.
That's it.
No better chance for them to win.
Let's see if they can work at wonders now. Out goes the Blast Cone Decoy. Actually, a bit of an interaction there, but he managed to land down the Glacial Fissure, knock himself out of harm's way, and force Team Bliss to utilize a teleport in there to be matched by Chaz.
Awkward position if a fight were to happen here. They start really just keeping them entertained, but Praetor shows in mid lane Direwolves. I don't know how far they want to push forwards here, knowing that Praetor has to walk through Daystar. Fight's on.
Fight is certainly on, and Praetor is removed, and this time Limus does get free reign to fire from afar. That means that Chaz is in a fair bit of trouble. Flashing across the wall with that two-man counter-strike, stunned and locked on down is to be Jax, and as a result, that is his demise, but it is Lived that is able to buy enough space for Limus to pick up a double.
Yeah, 2-for-1 trade. I mean, ultimately, Bliss maybe could have even been more passive and have accepted the 2 kills in the first place, but they've got enough control. They've got the health bars. Decoy puts the door up and just plants his face in and says, I hope I can find them. Well, you did, son.
You found two of them.
You found too many of them and you flashed away. Baron, very much gone here. Well done from Bliss, I think, as a whole, and you can see they were looking for 5 kills. You know, they weren't happy with just the 2. Daystar.
Can they punish Daystar though? He's got to be fancy with this one, but he's run out of distortion charges now. Stuck in a rock and a hard place. Where does he go? Can he bait them out with the clones? He certainly has done wonders now. Look how low he is.
Chaz no flash.
What does Chaz have left in the tank to try and take this LeBlanc down, taunting him with only 10 HP to his name? And he's gone.
And there's no Ashe ult. There's no actual way to lock him down. Watch this again. Direwolves, why are they choosing to fight when Praetor is showing clearing mid and they can't see the LeBlanc? Suddenly half health, but the fight's happening. They just don't have the damage to get those kills onto any members of Team Bliss. And then they flash with Lived over this wall here. He gets CC lock from the Braum passive. Blast Cone back in towards the rest of the squad. And if that's the only casualty and it's because you choose to be aggressive, that's such a good fight for Bliss.
Absolutely. And look how easy it looked for them when they split apart the team fighting composition. Not all the tools come together to protect that front line.
Your Ashe has 3 items, man. You want the Ashe auto-attacking if you want to win a fight. Especially with this DPS build. You know, it's not an ult Ashe, it's an auto-attack Ashe.
This Ashe needs uptime. That was a great play there from Daystar to zone him back from afar. See now that Liv just looking to try and push topside. That means they need to try and force the play right now. It's the Ash Shot into the explosive cast, into Why Not being removed for 45 seconds. In jumps Daystar, looking to try and one-shot, cannot assassinate, and is forced to back away. But they're just trying to keep them interested in the mid lane, because if Liv gets given a chance, he's going towards that inhibitor.
Yeah, he's still pushing right now in top lane. They're threatening the inhibitor, and if he goes down in top lane, think of the time and effort required from Direwolves to make that happen. Think of the time and effort they get to then push mid instead. So Direwolves try and hold mid. They will sacrifice the tower in top.
Sharka's gone for the hook right down the middle. The feathers come down, ripped back, charmed, and deleted. It's Arky that snipes that one away. Ignite's still available. Ace Daystar limps, but in jumps Lemus, and he's taking down Chaz. Jackson's back pushing top side, and Direwolves are losing in the mid. They're just breaking apart right now, and they've had to wait 30 minutes to get strong, but then Bliss will come out and say, you think you're good at team fighting? Your comp's built to do that? Let's just outplay you.
I mean, they get the Baron, they give them no good opportunities, they just pressure. They're constant, and they stop you decoying a whole world of pain here from Daystar. But the rest of the team are Bliss, looking towards the Nexus still. Only Zoranus stands between them. And it seems like he's done enough to stop them from ending the game. But they can't stop the momentum Bliss has just found.
Price is very, very high though. Multiple casualties, bounties lost, and 2 inhibitors claimed inside their base. The result as well. It really is perfect time for Bliss to go back to base and to pick up Soul Point.
And I love the way that this is played by Bliss, right? Because ultimately their comp is still very good at kiting backwards. The Xayah in particular, the Rakan super good for this. Poppy, of course, while going down initially can be super capable. And LeBlanc's so just squirmy everywhere, has so much mobility, you can't lock her down. She's so hard to find. And at this point, right, Direwolves, you've acknowledged they're looking for the force with the Ash ult because the Jax is already hitting turrets. And it's a hard force from them. But now they get pressured. You know, now the Jax is hitting another turret. Direwolves, what decisions can you make? And they choose to stay here instead of going towards the Jax as a team because they don't want to lose this inner turret in mid lane at the same time. Because then it's just a giant gold loss everywhere. Kratos may be basing, his base gets cancelled. Sharka looks for a hook, hits the wall instead of a champion. And look how bad that is.
He's baited his team almost in a way, saying, having hit this, we have to go in now. And from that point onwards, Team Bliss just went on all fronts.
And it is about pressure, right? Like, if you force teams to make decisions, there might be no good decisions left.
Daystar across the wall, looking to be an absolute pest once again, knocking them back. It's Daystar still looking to try and keep them locked down, but Praetor takes down Arkia. Too much mobility, but does fall on down. Double 80 carries coming online now.
Look at Jax, though.
As both Chaz and Praetor shed themselves in amongst it, and Daystar jumps in one more time. Lemus with the last stretch of HP. Comes in with the feathers.
I mean, Liv just looking at a triple kill straight in the face right now if they're not careful. And Chaz, where's he going to go?
Oh, he's been outplayed. He's gone in for the bait, but he can't buffer a rocket jump there. And Lift is gone as well. In goes Zoranus, flashing with the body slam. And Team Bliss just being a little bit too elusive, just being a little bit too frustrating to deal with.
Yeah, you can see the frustrations from Direwolves right now. Decoy sees another target, puts the door up and says, yeah, I don't take damage, but tell you what, Daystar's keeping him busy and he's going to guarantee the resets from the rest of his team, who even then changed their mind. They are trying to get every little piece of value out of the map every time that they can. And once again, Why Not gets hit with the arrow. That's where this kicks off. A massive rip back of the feathers, though, from Lemus just stops them completely in their tracks as he roots 3 of them. A good cast, though, right, ensures that eventually Why Not, after that flash was used, will find their target. But during all of this, you're watching a Jax run to the Nexus. This is not a 5v5. This is an almost 1 4v5 with a Jax trying to end the game, who instead is like, okay, they all lived, I get it. I can't end, but I am taking someone with me as a transaction. There is going to be some kind of trade here, and we'll get back out as the reinforcements come in.
Ultimately, it came battle of the zone use, purchasing time and affording them a second chance in life to get out with their life intact. And now we are starting to create a little bit of space with that gold lead. What was so close for the first 29 minutes of gameplay has now started to really balloon in Team Bliss's favor. They're up now by a comfortable 6k margin. They've claimed themselves Soul Point, having found the last 3 Cloud Dragons.
This is just the area of the map where fights take place here. Ash Arrow comes out.
Well, there's a ton of CC being laid into this key target, but can you take them down? One is just too tanky. 3 out into complete. Just a bit of a menace right now. As the ultimate goes out, knocks back Sharka. In goes that TP. And there is Daystar We're going to try and keep them humble as Liv jumps in first of all, soaks up a world of pain, continues to press on forward, and says as long as this counter-strike's active, I'm unkillable. Zonya's complete, another Stace, another charge in, another leap in, another chance to get the kill, the finish, the flash, the rip back and the double. Levis has had enough of it. He's claimed a triple kill, he's done 6,000 damage. And they'll put an end to this game. They'll start this best of 3 with a W, and the first seed takes the first game.
And a big first game victory here for Bliss. Lemus says, I'm absolutely sick of this game. I want this to be over and done with. Yes, he dies. But a 6,000 damage team fight from the side of Bliss to wrap that one up. And again, stoic faces from the squad. There's still another game left, potentially 2 left in this series. But a fantastic way to start this one. Considering that they kind of beat Direwolves at their own strengths. And we said this at the start of the day, Skimmy, you know, Bliss are a very good team fighting team. If this is the way that you're going to take them on, this is the fight that you're going to take, then it'd excite us to see what happens. Well, Bliss looking like the superior team of team fight so far.
It's going to be frustrating for them, no doubt, though, to reflect on that game, the fact that obviously that first Herald, they put so many resources towards it, then it times out, doesn't even get utilized. You've then got this very passive affair for what felt like an eternity, and then those big team fights come around. And then, yeah, you know, the gates are open. I think Praetor's going to be kicking himself, especially in that mid lane when he's been zoned back from Daystar, and then the fight goes awry.
Yeah, it was really weird to see a lot of these fights play out. I obviously want to start talking, though, with this early game, because it is a narrative that we've seen play out over this whole split, is that Direwolves don't have the strongest early game. I don't think by any means they necessarily lost it, but I think that they were toyed around with quite a fair bit, Max.
No, and I think that it actually went quite according to their plan in terms of having a very slow, stable early game, right? Besides this Herald, there wasn't really too much going on. Obviously, like you mentioned, Skimmy, the fact that Chaz picks it up, not used to having that at all, so doesn't end up using it to get any gold off the back of it. But overall, I think it went pretty well, and it wasn't really until the late game where it sort of devolved into 5v5s after 5v5s after there's a random kill here and a random kill here that it started getting out of hand for Direwolves. They weren't able to get those clean front-to-back 5v5s that they were looking for, and that's when it really fell out of their grasp.
Team Bliss were just phenomenal at stalling this out and then taking the engages that they wanted. That was one thing that was really notable. They were able to split certain players in ways that were advantageous for them, but there were a lot of times it was no longer 5v5s, Max. It felt like it was only 3 or 4 of Team Bliss coming up against all 5 of Direwolves and yet still being able to take the win. So how did you get to this point if you're Team Bliss? Like, what exactly is the recipe to get to such a successful late game?
It's on the solo laners, and for me, Lived and Daystar were the real standouts here. Lived particularly setting up in the side lane. Zoran is unable to match in this game. This is an Everfrost, Morello's, Zonya's Gragas doing absolutely no damage to this Jax, even though he ended up doing 3,000 more. But Jax can just really sit in the side lane. And we saw multiple times as well, Daystar within fights was splitting members off, finding Praetor, even zoning him out from the fight. And if you look at this comp of Direwolves rather, if your AD carries aren't hitting, you have no damage from the remaining members.
That is my initial concern as well with the Direwolves draft, right? If you put yourself into the mind of this Jax, who gets to play this game out, you build Merc Treads for lane, and then it's efficient into both your lane opponent and the jungler, and then you build Zonias into Frozen Heart, you just 1v9. Like, there was going to be a point in this game where it's just so easy to be Bliss. Like, they could do whatever they wanted with this map, and I think Direwolves, you know, they did want to scale, they do want these late game team fights, and their champs are good at it, but it's hard to do when your magic damage is unreliable.
You mentioned as well, Daystar, how good he was at splitting off these players, especially Praetor. I know there was one fight that we wanted to have a look at where it was really apparent and really put Team Bliss in a position to have all the advantage
Well, this was the game-winning fight, right? And you look at this, sure, Daystar hasn't really gotten involved too much before, but Praetor simply cannot play this fight. And then Decoy, off the back of that, is tossing up, do I go defend my AD carry so he can walk in, do I go join the rest of the 3? And by the time that's over, Bliss is so decisive in pulling the trigger that the fight's already done. So Daystar able to put so much pressure. It's not reflected in the KDA at this stage. I think he's like 2-0 and 1, but still providing so much pressure on the map, buying Bliss the time that they need to get the fights that they want.
And that's what we talked about coming into this matchup was that you know, whilst Daystar was able to split them off, that initiation from Arkia and everyone else on Team Bliss is so much more decisive than anyone else we've seen in this league, that if they waited even a couple more seconds on the side of Team Bliss, there is a way that Direwolves could have come out maybe not as down, or that they were able to get the turnaround and have it that Praetor was joining them. So them deciding to fight in that split moment and having that initiation is the two that work together with Daystar being able to separate Praetor.
I think it's just the confidence to me, the fact that you know that Predator is so strong in that moment of the game, and you know exactly what their game plan is and how they want to try and attack things. You notice that somebody's been removed from the fight very early on. You notice that also a lot of people hustling around that red buff, which really was the central point of a lot of those skirmishes. You're just like, well, they're split apart. The composition really can't do much as a result now. We just went out on this front as a result. So, yeah, I mean, just beautifully executed.
Very much so. Direwolves now, how do they bounce back? How do you look at this one, Rusty, and you go, it's all right. We weren't really able to take game one. It's a best of 3. We need to treat this as a realm that we are very able to bounce back.
Yeah, so I guess for me, it's like Direwolves had this weird hybrid of they wanted to draft for themselves as well as against their opponents.
Okay.
Like, we didn't get to see some kind of like Zoranus 1v9 Jax himself. I'd like to see them take the Jax away, but then that could have been a blind Jax pick, which gets weird. I personally think that Direwolves, I don't know if they are the best at the Tristana Ashe type of composition. I think it's hard to execute successfully because it's very liable to making mistakes. So the best way to fix that is to get rid of champions that make the comp harder, and LeBlanc makes that comp harder. Because she has so much mobility, she gets around the Braum, and it removes the concept of front-to-back team fighting. And just like that, like you can't actually play your front-to-back team fights, and Bliss run away with it. So for me, it's probably just ban away things from Bliss. Don't just pick things away to counter Bliss, and just play your own game.
I was actually a little bit surprised that LeBlanc did get picked up. Sorry to cut you off, Ski.
Well, no, I mean, that's exactly my point as well. The fact that Daystar gets given as champion, the first one to bring it out in the season and showcase, look how good I am at it. Once again, showcases how good he is at it. The only thing I'd say to caveat that point, which, I mean, we probably won't see, but it'll be kind of exciting because Chaz has done it in the past, is they have let the LeBlanc go through. He just slams the Malzahar as a response and says, like, okay, I can match you without the static shiv because I've got the dot damage, right? And then I just ult you and you aren't moving. So I mean, maybe there's a world in which you just sort of say, hey, like it is what it is. I want to bait you in this kind of direction.
Yep.
Hey, there's your first pick if they go for blue side again and respond in that fashion. That'd be kind of exciting.
Yeah, there is always that argument that sometimes giving your opponent what you think they're going to pick is better for you because you are able to work out counters for that. You're able to play in more of a comfort realm than rather, let's ban these out. I don't know what exactly 100% he's going to be picking up after that. But you said you wanted to see what sides were picked up. We do have that. We will be knowing that Direwolves go back. They double down. They pick up red side for themselves, Max.
Interesting, because when you're looking at their draft from game 1, the Gragas 5P certainly did not have the impact you'd want it to. It was losing in lane and then wasn't really finding too much value in the team fight. So to me, this is sort of saying, hopefully Zoranus is back there saying, give me a champion I can actually crush him on, give me the 1v1, and I will just stand out like I did last game.
Yeah. Do you think they're also going to learn from it? Even though we just made that argument, maybe you do let the LeBlanc through. Is there a realm where that one's banned out? I feel like you have written down what was banned, right? What would you replace instead?
Jace, I think you could probably drop the Varus ban if you're going to drop anything.
Okay.
I think that, you know, yes, Varus is still strong, but in terms of those 3, in terms of the mobility and the range that they provide, it's just a bit more annoying with the LB. So I'd assume that that's the ban that changes if they are going to switch up anything.
Yeah.
I agree with that. We could also just end up with a tank top laner from Zoranus instead of the Gragas, right? Because if they're going to go for the Trist Ashe again, you just put an Ornn or a Scion in front of it instead, right?
Yeah.
Instead of that AP Gragas and say, yeah, lane sucks. I mean, ideally, I think they want the Poppy into the Jax matchup so they can have a full tank lane counter who builds full tank after. But then, yeah, no magic damage.
Yeah.
Tough.
How did you guys like that Nort jungle as well? It's kind of the last thing I wanted to touch about.
I think it had its moments. But I think there was a few moments also in the big fights towards the end of the game where it kind of baited an engagement. Like, I've hooked myself in, I've missed who I'm after, I'm in, no, so we've got to go. And maybe the rest of the team screaming like, disengage is not the fight we need. But I think it also screams to the pressure, once again, that Bliss were putting on them. The fact that they were, you know, forcing that 1-3-1 or that 1-3 float, if you will. With
I just want Nautilus to have been the support. I think Nautilus into Rakan is better anyway. Like, I feel like this weird self-counter of a Braum 4th pick, seeing the Rakan, to me, is the part I'm lost on. Like, I wish that Braum was a Leona, you know? Like, I just think there's other options.
Yeah, I think it's worked well for them when they played it in the regular season last week, that they liked that they were able to do this whole, oh, we picked Nord, it could go anywhere. Now we swapped it and we flexed it to this jungle. It really worked well for them in that game. They actually ended up winning with it, but that was a very different support that they ended up picking for themselves as well. So I think it was just this, it's worked, let's try double down on it. Now maybe they do sort of bench that, and that's why they've also gone back to the red side as well for themselves. I don't know if you're laughing at me or if you're laughing at your group or something else.
No, I was just laughing to myself because I know that you said bench, but I thought you went full kiddie mode and you said bedge.
Oh, Bedge, no.
And I thought, they're just going to Bedge that one. Are we just talking in Twitch emotes again?
We just lay it to rest. We go, have a good night, my sweet prince. We're not going to pick you up in this rest.
So I'm just cracking up myself, just like, oh, did you just say that? There's no way, surely no.
No, but I can whip that one out later. But for now, we're going to have a look at our From the Fans. We asked you guys, because we are kicking off our playoffs week, what your favorite playoffs memory is. We got Calvin. He said, seeing Team Bliss logo on the DreamHack stage.
Hey, what's that, Calvin? What's that? Coach of Bliss?
It looks sick though.
It does. I also,
The
when
full
Bliss
graphic.
win in the studio looks kind of.
Oh
like,
yeah, I like the pink.
Yeah.
Like genuinely just
True.
color bias, not team bias. The pink looks so good in this studio.
I was going to say, if I had to pick a team that I don't like winning because of color bias, it's Chiefs, because then everything just goes blue. We already have blue
Blue
posters.
everywhere, yeah.
Like, yeah, I'm with them. I kind of like the
I'm
Bliss.
PGG. I don't like.
Oh,
I don't like orange.
You don't like? Oh.
Yeah.
Ooh. All right. We got one more from the fan. I'm just trying to think
Hey,
of
which
like
team do you hate, Skimmy?
how
I don't know, mate.
future matchups are gonna play out. Where I'm like, oh, maybe he's gonna be biased just because of the colors. Well, this is a bit of a long one. We got hashtag Ostland 2021 Split 1 playoffs, the first 3-2 set with PGG versus Peace, then the run back in the grand finals with the clutch 3-1 win for PGG, which took them to MSI, which became history in the making. So it was the lead up to also a favorite MSI memory as well, maybe.
That's when it was like peak Violet versus Praetor.
Oh yeah.
Right, and I
Yeah.
think that's when we had matchups like they were playing like Vayne and.
It was my
I'm trying to remember what else.
favorite to get
Was it
them in like the
Udia?
pre-game lobbies as well. It was good.
Do you remember the Udia backdoor
The game
from
for
Pabu?
Udi
Yes,
backdoor.
yeah,
yes.
Yeah.
Just sat in the bush.
That was crazy. I remember
That was
watching
good.
That one, yeah.
That's peak time.
Yeah, that actually has
Yeah.
brought a lot of good memories for me as well. That's a good one. I like that submission. Something else that I like is watch parties. And if you guys like watch parties, if you like watching League with some friends, then you can head down to Fortress Sydney for our grand finals watch party. It is taking place on Sunday, July 30th, starting at 5:30 p.m. $12 tickets, but includes a free drink. So you can either head on over to the Discord, get some more information, or LCO.gg as well are the two places that you can find out all the information you need for that enjoyable watch party. That does leave us, though, going to a break. When we come back on the other side, it is going to be the second game in this best of 3 between Team Bliss and Direwolves.
We're going to try and keep them humble as Liv jumps in first of all, soaks up a world of pain, continues to press on forward, and says as long as this Counter-Strike's active, I'm unkillable. Zhongyu's complete, another stasis, another charge, in another leap in, another chance to get the kill, the finish, the flash, the rip back and the double. Levis has had enough of it. He's claimed a triple kill, he's done 6 fouls.
First things first. The battle station. Escape, delete. I hate this setup. This just isn't me. Ugh. Now this is me.
Better go crazy. The greatest of all time. No, it's real. Better go down as one of the ghosts, the greatest of all time. Look, better go down as one of the ghosts, the greatest of all time. Float like I'm Cassius. These hits ain't nothing to mess with. I come through, do damage. I go me a ham on the block. Lisa Laz with the shot. Mr. Mamba with the proc. Ken Griffey with the pop. Prime time, I'm double dipping, iced out like Mr. Gretzky. Let's be honest, I had a tiger, don't test me. I'm like Serena when it come to my demeanor. A legend, and Dale when I'm starting my engine. Better go down as one of the ghosts, the greatest of all time. Look, better go down as one of the ghosts, the greatest of all time. Go crazy. crazy. That I go down as one of the GOATs, the greatest of all time. Go crazy. That I go down as one of the GOATs, the greatest of all time. I know you see me, there's something legendary that's in the making. Baby, I'm on it, all you gotta do is be patient. Trust that I'ma win, never lose again. Been losing friends, you think I'm tripping off of what don't make my ends meet? Man, please, I do all of it like it's easy, but I gotta do it so they all believe me. Look, I could break you off and still be steezy. Often I've been leading, cost of being greedy is something that is lost within being needy. Bet I go down as one of the GOATs, the greatest of all time. Look, bet I go down as one of the GOATs, the greatest of all time. Go crazy. Bet I go down as one of the GOATs, the greatest of all time. Go crazy. Bet I go down as one of the GOATs, the greatest of all time.
He hooks himself back in. They want it. Kisney's not able. It's a pentakill. Second, he'll find a second. Chippy is on an absolute tear right now.
Welcome back. We're going to have our game 2 in this best of 3 Direwolves versus Bliss. Guys.
This guy's just an idiot, man. In a
Look,
good way.
I'm just trying to be a producer at the same time as being a caster.
Producer
Wants
counting
everything.
down.
He's ready to observe. He's ready to produce.
I just
he's
love
ready to cast,
being
host.
here that much.
Yeah. You're so passionate
I just want a bit of a
about
piece of
the
everything.
broadcast. You want all your fingers in every pie.
I don't know what that was.
I don't know either, but I want to hear, you know, since you like counting down, maybe you could be a bit of a mathematician as well.
Okay.
We're going to go back to arbitrary numbers.
Oh,
How
yeah.
would you weigh in on Direwolves winning this series now, Skimmy? Only Skimmy, no one else.
Look, it's no longer 200%. I think it's definitely closer to 45%.
45.
To win the series,
To win the series.
thank God it's arbitrary.
They got it. There's absolutely no reasoning or backing towards the number Skimmy just gave us, but you guys probably have some reasons as to where you want to put your channel points, because our Dare fan vote up there in the corner, that's where you want to use them. That's where you want to have your say.
Vote an arbitrary number.
I've just put an arbitrary
Just
number of
chuck a
points
number
in there.
in.
Just throw it in there, and the good thing is, if you hold off, you might see a couple champs happen before you put in those arbitrary numbers, because Champ Select is ready.
That it certainly is. Look, hey, no one can call me biased if I'm chucking out 45% predictions like that, right? Caster bias ain't happening here today. I tell you what, though, the adaptation is the fact that, yes, Varus has been removed, the same ban, so it does mean that LeBlanc is the replacement for it, and it's actually Bliss. That'll say we won't make any changes, except our first pick this time is denying away that Tristana.
Yeah, Tristana first pick's still very good as an option for all teams in the league right now. All teams in the world at the moment starting to see this pretty prolifically through their draft phase. We've seen comps where it was Kai'Sa picked and Trist picked, and that's your 1-2, right? And it's not even AD carries anymore. It's just a question mark where they're going. But the response from Direwolves, I don't think this comes as a surprise. We've seen the Ashe priority. We've seen the Nautilus now be flexible between jungle and support, so their first 2 picks are just aligned with what we expect. My question now comes with the 3rd pick, because you want to hold the jungle support flex of this until your 4-5 picks. What do you go for? Is it a top laner into bans? Is it Jax into bans, right? There's Bliss actually have got the Ivan through, and they do not care about those little nerfs on the Daisy. They're going to lock that one in.
Yeah, they certainly are. Ivan obviously going to be very adept at getting all the sort of team fight protection that they'll certainly need, and Daisy certainly gets given a chance to impact the fight. A nice little wallop here and there, and suddenly you're in a world of pain as a result. So also going to be the ones to partner quite easily with it, which does mean then that, much like game 1, it is going to be Chaz responding and saying, okay, mid lane versus mid lane, I'm locking in Azir.
And I already like this comp more from Direwolves. I think Azir complements all junglers really well. This is one of those drafts where, like, truthfully, it doesn't have to be a Nautilus jungle here. If it was a Vi, I'd like their comp just as much, right?
Okay.
Ashe, Vi finds the target, Nautilus finds the target, Azir can be the team fighter with the Ashe for DPS. I just, you know, we're not comparing the drafts right now and how they interact with each other just yet, but I like what I've seen from Direwolves as an adaptation. This also leaves flexibility for top lane. Anything Zoranus could possibly want is now available to be drafted.
Quite curious to see then if he would actually want to command a little bit more power in this laning phase, or just in general for the draft itself, right? Obviously, given the Gragas to try and deny the impact really of that Jax, but the Jax got ahead individually. Then obviously rocked up to that first big skirmish around the 8-minute mark, came back with 2 kills, and basically made that lane impossible to then close the gap on. Rumble is going to remain the same from last game, much as the Milio is, but the adaptation this time is deny away the Alistair as we lock in the Rakan. As for Bliss, though, they're concerned about the Kha'Zix.
Yeah, the Kha'Zix ban, again, like strong physical damage champion that goes well with the Azir, who can kind of do the gank setup for you. So they just get rid of the isolation of the Kha'Zix. The Assassin has been removed. Kha'Zix is also the standard answer into the Ivern. So that is probably the biggest reason for that. One of the strongest level 2s in the game. Kha'Zix can one camp invade, and then you just lose. But Team Bliss, one of the most explosive teams that we have seen in the LCO, a lot of that credited to their support laner, their support player for sure. We'll just go back to what is now the tried and true Blitzcrank.
Very good on the Blitzcrank and going to have a much better time into the Rakan, right? The fact is that, yeah, sure, once level 6 comes around, the Rakan jumps in, and it's going to be a little bit easier to make sure that he cannot jump back with the silence. Ultimately, keeping him locked down. As Bliss will round out their composition, we've lived on the Cassante. So the question does now become, what does Zoranus play into it? And he will go for the Jax. We've seen the Renekton a whole bunch into this matchup, but decides he wants to have a chance now to be the more aggressive one.
Yeah, I think you're looking at either a Jax or a Renekton for sure here for the side of Direwolves, unless it was a curveball like Fiora-style champion.
Sure.
But that's not going to be seen this time around. Jax really valuable into the double ADC comp here as well, right? Renekton can just be kited. At a certain point in the game, Renekton tries to engage, Xayah rips back, Feathers dead.
Yeah. Renekton
gone. Makes you question the value of the pick other than just being a stable top lane champion. Sometimes really good. Could be considered valuable into something like the Ivern shield, the Blitzcrank passive shield as well with the shield cut that Renekton has. But
sure.
I think a much higher priority here from the Direwolves on scaling strength through a lot of their lanes now.
Do you think then the Jax shares a lot of the merits in the same ways it did last game, where you are into a double AD carry setup where the Counter-Strike and the likes of a Frozen Heart and Zhonya's can just find infinite value?
Very much so. Blitzcrank and Ivern are going to be the primary magic sources here from Team Bliss. Now, my question is what breed of Ivern do we get from Why Not, right? Because your standard is full support, try and support double AD carry. This is definitely an Ardent Sensor game, to say the least, right, in the way that you want to play with your team. But if you want reliable magic damage, you could also go for the Night Harvester, right? You could be a Giga Chad, why not Ivern?
Demon AP Ivern?
Exactly, yeah, absolute Demon Daisy, as the build goes. But I'm not sure where he'll go. I'm expecting support. So again, limited magic damage, which does lend itself nicely towards, Merc Treads into full armor builds. With that said, Direwolves, though, I love their composition. I do. I just, standalone look at their comp. I love it. It's a really good 4-man unit. Their scaling is exceptional. Jax, split push or team fight threat. And Zoranus on Jax is one of the best team fighting top laners that we've seen in our league. A lot to look forward to from Direwolves.
Let's see then if it's a lot for them to look forward to in terms of turning this series around. Currently down 1-0 in this best of 3. They've made a few adaptations. You're pretty happy with what they've done to really change the tune up here in game number 2. And let's see if they can actually find a result with those changes as well. As for Bliss, they're going to look to try and showcase just how strong this double AD carry setup can be and give a chance to pilot themselves.
I'll tell you this, Skimmy, I'm a simple man. I like simple things in League of Legends. I'm entertained by the creative, but I'm also entertained by the simplicity of compositions. And I think the Direwolves have made their comp simple. And I like that. I think, we've said this, I don't know how many years in a row we've said this, but we were looking at our recently eliminated teams and we were saying, just pick Malphite Orianna. I don't care. Get good enough at Malphite Orianna and then learn other things. But they try to get too creative.
Do you think it patches a lot of the weaknesses of what they had in last game, where you aren't all reliant now on your AD carries being zoned back? It's almost like you've got a redundancy, almost a fallback plan that you do have guaranteed AP damage in a very much AD-centric style of the Azir, as well as the Jax can also be a threat, right? It's not going to be that Gragas not going to try and be a nullifier. Yeah,
and forcing the Milio ban for the Azir is still going to be there, right? So they have a lot of value in their comp. The thing that I like about it is Ashe Rakan can win lane, and they're already ghosted. They're being very aggressive right now.
They very much are. I mean, that's Limus already burning the Flash cleanse as well as the hook, and Izaki is looking to try and deny, but I think he's actually got his AD carry killed. And it's going to be Arky that picks up the trade back. That hook, questionable.
Yeah, I mean, it was an attempt to be a health trade. Decoy now going to try his best to clear this wave and crash it. If Zaya comes, though, collects this wave, it's still pretty worth it for the side of Team Bliss. So just consider how this will affect the experience between these AD carries. 100 extra gold to Praedyth, who cares? Look at the amount of gold this wave is worth. So maybe it is a questionable hook, but I think when the dust settles in that lane, that is extremely... Praedyth has joined mid lane.
He has.
He has actually switched roles with Decoy, who is now the carry of bottom, and has placed a ward for his mid laner. Anyway, I'm pretty sure Team Bliss win from this trade, all things considered. Again, you watch this trade, the immediate ghost from Praedyth, fully aware of how they want to play this one out. Cleanse a little bit early there from Lemus because he's going to lose out on cleansing that Ignite. Bit of extra damage goes in the pockets and still does result in the 1-for-1.
Does mean they're a very scary bot lane as a result because both AD carries do not have any summoners available to them. Just the supports that have the ability to flash and outplay. And that means that Wynot's in the area at level 3 on Q, saying,
with flash.
You're in a lot of trouble right now. Flashing to ignore Decoy, dragging back Predator, ripping back the Feathers, and looking to take him down nice and easily. Shaka roams, hits a Riptide and says, that's my job done, I'm gone.
Yeah, Shaka gets here, but it's just going to be a little bit too late to try and assist. Why not locks it down? Sums missing means a giant target put on their heads. Why not going to try and smite this one away before Shaka can get here? It is also now level 4-3 and is doing an exceptional amount of work on the map because his bottom lane had such a well-placed trade in terms of wave control. Look at how that can be accelerated through the jungler coming down there first and foremost. They lost gracefully, and it pays off.
And you mentioned who cares really about where Lemus would have to come back into this laning phase despite him not getting that first blood. Look at the CS difference, right? It's a monumental lead for the Zaya at this point in the game. So, two desperately going against them. Direwolves being the ones to pull the trigger. Found a great moment to strike it, only 1 minute in.
With controlling this 1v1, it feels like pretty handedly as well. Big wave, though, to be crashed, so that should equalize top lane quite a lot, even though it looks like 31 to 18 CS. Just consider them close to even. Now, I spoke before about liking Direwolves comp because it's very straightforward, but I also said I like creativity, and that is the Ivan Blitzcrank composition summed up as best I can, right? Arkia is a creative Blitzcrank player, very aggressive, loves the flash hooks, loves to find these angles constantly. Why not on Ivan? Naturally a creative champion. So they're just going to try and do things to upset the balance of this game. You know, find tempo where maybe there shouldn't be. Find angles. And use that Blitzcrank to disrupt the front to back of Direwolves because it excels at disrupting that front to back. As Shaka coming bottom, why not? Is nearby.
It's going to start with the grand entrance. There is the glacial runes to lock them down as a result. Lemus just getting his cleanse back up, but available is going to be burned instantly as well. Shaka flashing on his head, taking him down, but it's Decoy that picks up the kill as a result. Why not is here, but maybe now he's the next one on the chopping block, and it certainly seems to be the case with him being dragged on back. Shaka comes in, and it's actually double supports finding the double kills.
Yeah, huge picks here though from Direwolves. Yes, maybe the kill is not going into the perfect hands, but they'll take those. Early game money into supports is crucial. And they get it against the flow of that lane, right? If another kill goes against Direwolves, that could be GG. But they get them at the crucial timing. Why not flashing down there as well to try and assist his AD carry? But he was the one that was slow to the fight this time around and shoes on the other foot.
And I think there is a really valid point about how much it could be a certain GG condition, right? If you're that far behind, I mean, just take a quick stock check of mid lane as well. Look how far ahead Daystar is in his 1v1 too, so it certainly would have been a bit of a scary proposition, but it just simply starts from Decoy getting aggressive and Shaka wrapping around.
Yeah, Decoy finds the knock-up, finds the angle. Cleanse is usable, but Cleanse not going to save him from the flash forwards of Shaka afterwards, and why not flashing in to try and maybe shield his AD carry. Ends up flashing into the waiting arms of 3 of them. They had the wave, they had the timing on the fight. Direwolves playing that one out just a little bit better. And all that CS difference that you're seeing from them will be equalized again a little bit through these waves that are constantly building and crashing, not sitting stabilized. Mid lane, like you highlight, is the 1 point of difference that's been left isolated, and Tristana loves an isolated lane.
Certainly does, has so much pushing potential with that explosive shot.
And also pre-6, if Chaz ever uses the Q to push the Sand Soldiers forwards, Tristana can jump between you and the soldiers and very easily win that equalized trade. Because you have no way out in pre-6, you can't ult.
Ooh.
So I think the hook was about to be buffered by Daystar. Regardless, has to use that one. Nice little attempt from Shaka, though.
Tell you what, that's definitely hit on another occasion, but this one certainly does hit as Arkia rips back Decoy, drops him down to 40%. Out comes the Ghost from Praetor nice and early here. He's actually lost vision for a meantime, but Decoy then jumps back in his results. Says, I'll fall on down as long as we win out on this fight. One is the one to fall on down. Praetor now stuck and forced to flash across the wall. The hook will not connect. Arkia still the focus, but Shark is forced to run away. Honeyfruit is there to try and protect them, but actually the Dragon acting as the helping hand here for the side of Bliss. As Limus is untouched, he's found two. There's a third. And there's Daystar flashing across the wall without an ultimate, but able to take down another.
Arkia flashes the wall and says, do you want a hand? Daystar says, get off my kill. We're looking at top lane as well. Liv did use all-out mode. Zoranus also ulting. We'll get the honey fruit, but when all is said and done in that bottom lane skirmish, I am not kidding when I say Chaz did not do a thing, and that hurts. The fight starts decently for Direwolves. Reinforcements though from Daystar is just going to be a little bit faster. Chaz comes into the fold, hooks on cooldown, and realistically is just dying to the Drake. Gets rooted by the Xayah, has ult, has flashed through all of this, so just keep this in mind. Gets Tristana ulted away when he was looking, and just denied. Was not given a chance to play this game. Arkia comes in and says, what's up? And that was a very easily one team fight by Bliss.
And the crazy thing for me is just the difference of pace between games 1 and 2. We had this many kills by 29 minutes last game, right? The fact is now we got that in the first 10, and this is Bliss at their very best, right? You know, when Direwolves want to play passively, want to play very lane-oriented, it meant that the game was so evenly matched for such a long time, but this is almost them saying, we'll show you how your comp's meant to be played, and we're going to really up the tempo now.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the game is for sure accelerated. I think that is a part of the picks that have changed in this game. You know, the Ashe playing... Oh, hang on.
Hang on a minute, indeed. It's such a fantastic double cleanse flash out coming in from Limus, but in goes Arkia, dragging him underneath turret. That's a massive ultimate, and it means Limus finds kill number 4, and that's with Shaka roaming down to try and help them out.
And Bliss were just so aware that that was going to happen. I mean, Direwolves, I respect the aggression. I love that we're seeing these looks and these angles from them, but they walk through a ward. As we're just zooming in on Daisy slapping a Herald. I love that they're aggressive Direwolves, but also they did it through vision. Hex Flash from Blitzcrank was able to dodge vision himself, and they were just there for an easy counter. You know, credit where it's due though, Limus is able to cleanse Flash out of the Rakan combo brilliantly. His timing was exceptional. But it's one of those things that we look at in hindsight, like, what were they thinking? But at least they were looking.
They've had a stab in the dark there, but it is, as a result, really backfired on them, because you can see the impact of that is that Limus is now top of the charts. 4K to his name, up by 800 into his lane counterpart, and such a different way to start off this game, right? He was down and out in the first match, managed to really bring it back in the later team fights, but now starting at such a strong advantage, really does get you concerned about really how this game can pan out.
Praetor trying his best to stay close in the total goal, but Daystar Limus for sure running away with this one. And that is a 1-4 Ashe that is the closest really of the rest of the team to being up there in total gold value. Volatile game start. Volatility seems to be the ballpark of Team Bliss. Ashe Arrow a little bit off there. But they're still hunting, still trying to find those angles. And again, one of the dangers of versing this Direwolves composition is Chaz hits 6, jungler comes mid. You'd like to see Chaz maybe look for those plays to use the ultimate as well as an engage tool, but Ashe Arrow makes it free. There's no cleanse on Daystar. There's no cleanse on Limus right now as well, but he has the ultimate. Xayah makes things very difficult.
Yeah, certainly regardless of the KDA, they've got the tools to continue to fire shots into the dark and see what lands, and hope that a miracle goes their way. It certainly is going to be the case anytime soon, as Team Bliss will finally make their way towards the Dragon. 11 minutes into this one, claim the very first Ocean as a result for themselves. Topside though, lived in a lot of trouble, flashing away. Yeah, just kept his life intact as Zoranus was very keen to run him down.
Yeah, I think for a moment there he was even considering the dive if the wave was larger, but it had been thinned out by this K'Sante. And it will just be, you know, a favorable trade for Zoranus, but it's just going to be a wave crashed, and he's going to have to sacrifice that cannon as well, which feels bad, as it lived will teleport back into top lane. For the moment, you could say there's a teleport advantage, but I would suspect Zoranus has no choice but to match that one. And what are we looking at for Direwolves is the question. You know, I think ultimately bottom has happened. It is done. You know, there is a bounty though on both bot lane members, so if you're able to find a 4-man or something play down bottom, that's exceptional, the amount of gold you get. But at the same time, starting to get those summoner spells back for both of them. Ashe may not be able to find those angles as well. You could just look at throwing Ashe arrows towards mid still, right? Use Chaz as a way to get money, or even go top. I think Daystar and Lived are the two that have to be probably the most careful now.
As you quite rightly point out, the damage has already been done here in the bot lane, so let's see if we can try and influence the other lane states as a result. And chuck those arrows off cooldown and see if we can find anything noteworthy from it. Certainly would love to see a solo kill here for Zoranis to get the Jack's wing condition online, as the pressure will not stop anytime soon in this bot lane. The Herald will be summoned. And they'll look to really guarantee that this turret goes on down. The Ashe shot goes out. The Featherstone response. The cleanse was available. Limus opting for that one instead. Direwolves unable to answer back. Nothing to be traded.
Yeah, nothing doing just yet. 3 minutes on a Drake. You can just take pot shots, right? You can just take those out options, take those angles. Hook hits though.
What a beautiful hook that was there, and Decoy's in a world of trouble, but he's able to run away. Quickness was active, and the Ignite is ticking down, but not enough to get lethal cheers yet. But that's not going to stop them from really giving up their pursuit anytime soon. Turns around with 3-man knock-up. The flash, the passive, the cleanse, the TP. In they come back, get 2. Double trouble as they look to find anything, but Arkia just don't miss. And he finally takes down Decoy. And Predator will at least get 1 for his troubles. But look at Daystar in mid lane as a result.
I'll tell you what, Skimmy, for no good reason, Bliss just managed to pull a rabbit out of the hat, equalize the trades. It ends up being jungler for support and double teleports from Direwolves for an even trade. They'll get a plate, they'll get 2 plates bottom, but look at how many they lost in mid and top lane for this. Direwolves choose to throw everything at that skirmish, and they get 1 kill and just lose money everywhere.
It certainly does feel like the cost of bailing out your bot lane. You should put yourself further and further behind in the other lanes. Look at the amount of plates that were lost as a result. There you go. Yeah, hit the dab.
But that's actually great. He jumped on the spot, which could just really get in the head of Chaz if he's recalling. He's like, oh, I got ult. Hook hits, that's how this fight kicks off. And Arkia back-to-back skirmishes with fantastic hooks. Decoy essentially out of the fight here, right? Even uses the W over the wall. They look for Shaka. They will follow this one through. Shaka hits a 3-man ult. Praedyth is freely hitting through all of this. Definitely an important factor. And then Decoy tries to get back and help his team. Well, he actually just gives over money and ends up becoming that 1-for-1 trade. Top lane. Ooh.
Went from 1 kill to potentially a second there as Zoranis is forced to burn the flash and give up the top lane. Arkia is still actually hungry and was looking to try and see if he could find him.
They lost top though, Skimmy. They lost mid as well after the recall from the Azir. Bot seems like it's 1-hittable as well. And there's a static shift Tristana now down here. So if they stop looking at bottom for even a second, it's gone. And this gold lead, you know, up to 5,000 odd now. They've accelerated this pretty much out of control of the Direwolves here.
Yeah, what was an 800 gold lead is now becoming 1,000 between both AD carries. That doesn't change too much in the overall top 3 theme. It is still Predator, the sole hope of Direwolves at this stage.
I think the other thing as well, though, is like, remember the Direwolf scale. You know, Ashe, Azir, Jax, insane scaling composition. Still got a lot to look forward to here for the Wolf pack. And for me, it's like, you know, ultimately, Direwolves would love to fight every 2 minutes. They would love to have a successful fight every 2 minutes when an Azir ultimate and an Ashe ultimate are both available, right? They are an R-button composition. Team Bliss are just not really letting that happen, right? A hook comes out every 12 seconds instead. But what if one of these hits and you don't have your ults anymore? Like, that's where those fights are starting to become really rough from them. So Direwolves threw numbers at that problem to try and solve it. And the fact that that was an even trade is the worst part.
Oh, ultimates are available, and the Ashe ult isn't going to land. I wonder what it was aiming for. It doesn't connect in the river, not as it connected to the TP that was coming as well.
The hook hit, but the hook was also buffered. Dredgeline finds the wall at the very least. Nautilus, one of those uniquely powerful champions that being able to be hit by anything and not care, because if that hook hits a wall, he's going to that wall.
He certainly is. He's ignoring what you're saying. He's doing his own thing.
Camille hookshot can do that as well, actually, I learned recently. Pop your ult to you, but you hookshot the wall, you're coming back.
Okay. Time to bring back Camille into the meta then.
It happened with Cassante hit an all-out on a Camille as it went to go over the wall, but they buffered the hookshot, so he just went and Camille came back, which is always fun to watch.
That sounds like a nice, interesting question mark ping into a chrono pause. Is that what's meant to happen, ref?
The answer is yes.
So with that Ashe ult missing, the fight was off. You're wondering if there was ever a world in which they'd go for that one with item spikes coming online and, as you say, being an R button composition. If that had landed, the dragon fight would have begun. And perhaps that would have been Direwolves clawing back at that 5k deficit. Either way, though, they're going to utilize the map state to jump across and make life difficult for Lived here. So Shadows was active. Two members jump into him, but he's hot on the heels and instantly flashing away.
Arkia now on the hunt. Doesn't quite venture far enough forwards to find Praetor till now, but he's got his sights set on the target. Shirelia's on.
Trillia's number 2. Flash, disengage, run from that. Not taking any chances this time. Not going to get picked apart. Those two scary prospects there.
And that's why we love Arkia. And that's why having an Ivern with a Blitzcrank is dangerous, because there's a Blitzcrank in every bush. And there's new brush on Summoner's Rift. Who knows if there's a Blitzcrank in that one?
Certainly it's a scary game. Goes out, tries to read the movement there with the Rakan. Not successful on this occasion though.
Arrow here.
Arrow goes
Ooh.
out, sidesteps from wide up. Flash! But he still gets knocked up. Everything chucked towards the Ivan. Out goes the Feathers decoy, jumping away so he doesn't get ripped on back. As Shaka is the one to receive the punishment of those Feathers, and is that sole kill so far is Lived. He's forcing Predator to burn the Ghost to run to safety, and then Daystar just gets a solo kill into Chaz.
Yeah, we'll have to watch that one again. It seems like the Zero ultimate just did not quite find his target there. And Team Bliss, a fight that Direwolves choose to take. That's twice now in 2 games. Direwolves actively choose the fight, and Direwolves end up losing that skirmish. Daystar, no ultimate. He's stunned up.
Getting at the end there, really. Nothing left in the tank but to relegate himself to falling on down. But the Herald of Summon topside. That's found another turret. It's 4-0. And it's going to get another headbutt off as well. I mean, this is just domination at this point.
I mean, Zoranus makes the best of a bad situation. You watch his back. I'm still a little bit perplexed at the Nautilus hook into the Ivan as he flashed away and still got hooked. The Ashe arrow gets dodged. Nautilus flashes hooks. I don't believe that one. That hook is an absolute fallacy. But they try and follow the engage up afterwards. Can't find the Xayah. That's pretty much impossible to do. Okay, that makes a lot more sense as to how Chaz gets into a spot of trouble here in this bottom lane. Ultimate gets used, but he was already out. He'd already done the damage.
Yeah.
Calculations were there. Daystar, the mathematician.
Just forced him to stick around a fraction longer and paid the ultimate price for that one. Now we get to witness the real action. 2 bruises having a crack at it. All that mode goes across. Bonus without any mana. And soon, without any HP. Ish is going to get some of that as well. This bot lane is cursed. It really is winning for Team Bliss so far. And now we can make the great journey from bot to top as they look to start a Baron.
And looking for the fight as well afterwards. Rally is used. They are hunting.
They certainly are. The Daystar disengage away. It's going to be Ark in the front line. It's taking them down. Look at Ashe right now. Praetor is the one stepping up, running into all 3 members. He doesn't care. He's trying to give them a little bit of hope in this game. Loses vision though because of the Ivan brush. And is told to back away.
I mean, Praetor absolutely space gliding all over them, just trying to find, you know, the perfect team fight for his team, but rough start. Just the support they're able to lock down. Their top lane are not going to have an influence, but there is a teleport up from Zoranus now. The one thing they have in advantage for them is that they can have 5 members here, but if you go, you're going to lose a tower bottom, if not more. As well, Lived may not be able to teleport. He is absolutely having an impact in this game, having just picked up the solo kill. And to put it simply, Skimmy, as Zoranus might take a turn at hunting. Daystar and his 4 wards. There's a pretty dangerous wards that we just saw.
This seems like a dicey game right now. Zoranus is playing, completely ignoring the wave. He takes this blast cone as well. He's going to find himself lots of members. The hook will say there is your blast cone. There is you jumping across. The water leap away. But then a TP in from Daystar saying, where are you going, son? 1v4. What are you going to do to us? Well, the counter strike is active. The leap area is good, but I can leap across walls as well. It's actually Arkia that takes it with that final ignite tick. And speak of the devil, he lands yet another hook, locking down Shaka.
Dial's got reinforcements though
He's got a
nearby.
hook of his own, so that means it's a one-man grand entrance. There's Liv wrapping around as they start untouched, and it's Limus now joining the fight completely on his own as well. Sidesteps the Emperor's Divide, walks up and pretty nullifies the quickness there. Not going to be deterred by what Decoy is trying to dish on out, and it's just reset City as Limus finds free. Daystar's bouncing around, and Bliss are close to a 10k lead now.
Yeah, and I think Bliss, even considering an inhibitor bottom lane, will instead just get Drake and Baron simultaneously. As long as Limus is there to deal damage to the Baron buff, everything is going well for Team Bliss. And this is a completely different game. Yes, there is more action. Fantastic bait here from Liv as well. Teleport comes through. Zoran is so dead once this Tristana confirms that there's no way out. And these Ivan Qs have been connecting. They have been finding their mark. Zoran is... I mean, he tries to survive, and then the reinforcements come through, and Arkia hits the first hook. It is onto a Nautilus. He realizes this is not exactly a winning fight for an Ivern and a Blitzcrank. And the reinforcements come through, but the big thing for me here is, one, Liv has already found a flank. Two, Chaz tries to protect him, but cannot because multiple angles have flanked, and then he tries to get aggressive and just gets hooked by Arkia. So he's now back into the fold of things instead of actually looking for angles to find those fights. This has been an extremely rough game from Chaz, to put it simply, on this Azir. He has found absolutely nothing in a positive sense for his team. And that really hurts them because they need him to be strong.
They look again. Trellius hook, flash, guaranteed that it is going to be Praetor blocked on down, but Limus starts off by removing his support. So Decoy's gone from this fight. Zoranis has found the flank, leaps into a three-man stun, but where's his team? They're locked in land, looking to try and fight another fight elsewhere, and that just means that Limus says, I don't even care about your stun. Chaz with the Emperor's Divide, flashing them back, but does not matter. This is Team Bliss at their very best. So strong as they claim an ace in game number 2, and at 24 minutes are marching towards the win.
I mean, Praetor simply cannot play against Lived on this Cassante, constantly finds him. Simple game, simple execution from Team Bliss. Chaotic start to this one, but no chaos in the ending. They just play their comp out, they hit their hooks, and Dial's no way, no chance.
No way, no chance in this one. The first best of 3 done and dusted, as easy as that. The first seeds are the first team through in the upper bracket final.
Waiting for Why Not's Sprinkler as he celebrates the victory in a way that only Why Not can. My favorite part about these is that he never knows how long he's on camera for, so he commits. Like, we could come back to him and he may still be doing it because he's not sure. Big win from Bliss. I think they should be very happy with how they played it out. I think an introduction to a little bit of a different style from them, but still with flavors of the normal Bliss that we know, right? The Cassante for top lane. Liv shows how good he is on the pick. The Blitzcrank from Arkia, the second time we've seen this one. Yeah. I think absolutely a star of the show. And, you know, Chaos is a realm that I think Bliss will enter happily. And Dials tried to keep up with them in this one, but couldn't.
No, they seem to enjoy it.
It felt like the inverse of the Dials that we saw or Split, because they actually did really well early game. Actually, I don't know if I want to say really well, but there were moments of brilliance from them, the way that they were able to handle themselves a lot in bottom lane. I was like, okay, this game could be going Dival's way if they're able to keep pacing themselves this way. But Max, in game 1 it happened, and in game 2 it's even more predominant, so I'm willing to say it now, but they seem to fall apart when it comes to objectives.
Yeah, it's objectives, and then to me, it was this Blitzcrank and Ivern combo that really just made things a living hell for the side of Direwolves, right? You talk about Direwolves wanting to be a team that plays with a lot of order, plays with a lot of front to back focus. You have this Blitzcrank, you have this Ivern constantly fishing. Either Q lands, it's essentially a kill. And Arkia, we have to get the accuracy statistics, but he did not miss basically any time he was on screen.
Yeah, we're going to need someone to count that one. How many hooks didn't miss here? I think it has to be at least above 4%.
Yeah, yes.
Why 4%?
Somewhere between
4 and 100, I think.
Yeah, we just watched him miss one in that replay.
Okay, so between 4 and 95, I think.
Thanks, that.
No, you're welcome. That's
just
what I'm here for.
Numbers.
The arbitrary
That's
statistics.
the buzzword of today, isn't it?
Arbitrary. Just throw the numbers out there. The team fights are absolutely phenomenal from Team Bliss, though. And look, I'm just going to say, you already mentioned it a little bit, Rusty, but I'm going to hear it from you, Max. Chaz I'm not going to say he was the one that really led down the team today. I think everyone had their moments, but for me, Chaz really didn't step up today. I don't know what was happening in mid lane.
Yeah, I mean, Chaz has traditionally never been the strongest, like the most dominant lane player who's going to come out and just smash you in lane. But particularly this game, he did have those moments where he could have made something happen and he didn't. The notable one that comes to mind is that Dragon fight. Both Flash and Ultimate available, ends up walking in and dying for essentially free. And with this composition, you need to be getting to those 2-3 item spikes. You need to be taking fights on an even footing. As we take another look at Wild's dance, it's just distracting me from everything I was about to say.
I do have to write it down, so next time we interview him, I ask him how long after winning and does he go for, and at what point does he feel he has to stop doing it? Because you're right, he doesn't know when the camera is or isn't on him, so he could have done 20 iterations of the sprinkler for all we know. But our end game screen.
Cool.
Cool. Anyway,
I
moving
love
on.
the stealth pivot.
Yeah.
Let me just take a breath of air and
Yeah,
back into this.
awesome. Thank you so much. I love that 3 people here on the couches with me and not a single one of them
Hey, you were
decided
having
to
a
comment on it.
conversation about
You
your
dig those
interviews, and why
holes.
not?
Yeah.
We let you go. We let you go.
This is Max's way of getting back
Anyway,
to me. Yeah,
damage
let's
dealt.
look at this. Damage dealt. Is that what you want to talk about, Rusty?
I would like to talk about the damage dealt. I do think that ultimately it wasn't about the damage in this game, though. I think, like what you said, Max, I think the most important part here is that this Blitzcrank Ivan, the style of play that Bliss had, did really well in creating chaos in what was meant to be the order of the Direwolves composition. And I think, again, Direwolves, like, the Ash Arrows weren't quite finding their mark. The Azir did not find a mark in this game, was genuinely unable to play. And I think the one time he was meant to, got Tristana ulted out of it. And it just felt like Bliss were comfortable. And it never really felt like Direwolves were comfortable. And I think their comfort relies so much on having leads.
Okay.
And the second that stopped working out for them, right, that bot dive to me is the point that Direwolves like lost the wheels off their car and just didn't know how to get anywhere.
Remind me, I do have a draft question for you, Rusty, that we will circle back around to, but we're going to jump into interview. I don't want to leave our interviewee waiting, so let's head on into it. We have Lemus joining us. I had actually no idea who it was. This was Max who picked the interview, so I'll let you take the first question.
Hey, Lemus.
Hey.
How you going?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just here like after every game at this point, so.
Yeah,
Do you want to actually just join the couch? Do you want to just come down to Sydney for playoffs week? We could just pull you in after every win. Is it like, would that make you more comfortable?
I mean, I'm gonna be playing though, so I don't know how that's possible, but if you can make it happen, then
That's a
yeah,
good point.
I'll be there
We'll see.
no matter what.
We'll do a workaround.
Speaking of that series, though, it felt like a very chill series. Take us through it from your perspective. Did you feel the pressure? You felt pretty relaxed from watching you.
Yeah, look, I was expecting a lot more from Direwolves, to be honest. I don't know. I don't think I played particularly well this series. Like, if I were to like grade my own personal performance, I think I played quite poorly actually. But even then, it just felt like Direwolves were just not really doing anything, and it was just like a farming simulator.
One thing the Direwolves did try, though, was this double 80 carry composition that they ran in both games. Can you take us through your sort of opinion on it and whether it's good? Because it hasn't been finding too much success in the region so far.
Double 80 carry, oh, you mean like Tristana plus like any marksman in the bot lane?
Yep.
Yeah, well, I think it's very strong. I think, like, why it may look weak is that I think the mid laners aren't that good at playing Tristana right now. You know, ADC champions are pretty hard, so, and ADCs are like the best players. So, like, players like us make Tristana look easier, but when the mid laners play it, it's like, yeah, buddy, go back to your control mages.
There you go.
Is this something that you guys have been working on as well in scrims, and there's not really too much of a conversation that needs to happen when, you know, you go from Daystar getting LeBlanc in game 1, and then you guys are like, all right, Tristana didn't work for them. If they're going to ban out LeBlanc, let's pick it up for ourselves. Is it something that has been there for a while, or are you just like, yeah, let's go, Daystar, I know you can do it?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we prep a lot when it comes to draft. We try out like a lot of different picks and styles in scrims. Like, we'll just play like any champion that we think is good, and we'll try it out, and then we just see what we have the most success with, and then we just theorize about picks that that we should have the most success with, and then we just try and draft around them. I think Tristana itself is a very strong champion. I think you just have to like know how to play it.
I saw Why Not when
simple.
he tweeted, he said 6 hours of draft prep. Is that like lowballing or overshooting on how many hours you reckon you've put into prepping for Direwolves?
Yeah, look, well, when we draft, like, when we did draft prep rather, a lot of the time it goes so long that like I just alt tab out and start playing ARM or something because I get really bored. And speaking about Raz, oh yeah, I just wanted to give it like a shout out to Raz because I'll never say this to his face, but I think like he cops like a lot of internal criticism like within the team, and he's been putting in like a lot of work to improve his mentality and his approach to the game, and it's not like very easy to do. So I just want to commend Dwayne on giving his all every day for the team.
Oh, that's so sweet. No.
There's
No,
no way.
it's not.
There's no way
I'm
you
serious.
just be
I'm 100%
genuine about
serious.
this.
Why would
I'm
he not
dead
be?
serious.
I can't believe this. Anyway, congratulations on the 2-0. Enjoy your time off, and we'll see you again for potentially
Thanks.
the game continuing to the PCS.
Alright, thanks. See ya.
See ya.
Like, he hasn't said a real thing the entire split, and he comes out and just sings one of his praises.
Actually, he did say a real thing. He said this was an 8-team race.
Oh my god.
I was waiting that for you to ask the question. Hey, mate.
I was going to.
How many teams left?
Yeah. I
love it.
How many
He
teams
doesn't
did you put in the
even
race?
know that he's quoting memes half the time, I feel like. When you said you want to come on the couch, he was like, I will be there no matter what. Which is just like a known meme that like, I think just came out of him. Like,
Yeah.
I lost it though about the Tristana. Like, look, mate, 80 carries, we all know they're the best players, right? So, like, yeah, buddy, go get to your
I would
control
argue
mages.
that 80 carries right now is the most stacked role in our league, though, by
Yeah.
far. So,
Sure.
like player skill-wise, like average, like depth of role, I think is probably the highest. Not
Yeah.
to say mid laners can't play Trist.
No, everyone can play Tristana,
It's
bro.
pretty
It's not a
straight.
hard
You just
champion
know when
play.
to jump in.
Yeah.
I think you're good.
We've got MVP coming up here as well, so it could be anyone on the side of Bliss. Any quick honorable mentions before we see who
I'm
got
just-
voted for?
Honorable
Bliss, I'm
mention
just
to
going
the
to say
Blitzcrank.
Daystar.
Okay, you're going to say Daystar.
Honorable mention to the Blitzcrank always.
Yeah, because you know that Sport's not going to get it.
Why not also had a very good game?
He did? Skim?
I think it's Daystar, but I want to give it to Arkia.
It's
Okay.
lived.
All right, yeah, let's see who does get it. It's going to be
course it's
Daystar.
Daystar.
I mean, 7-1,
course it's Daystar.
17 in this game, in this series, sorry. 65% kill participation, 33% damage share over 2 games. So, fantastic stats from him. Very well deserved, but I'm going to say it again. Could have put anyone from Team Bliss up there, and I would have said, you deserve it, because you highlighted the solo laners, Max in game number 1, and then obviously in game number 2, they just doubled down.
You absolutely could pick anyone, but what's crazy to me is like I still haven't seen a game where I'm like, damn, Daystar's actually getting stomped here. Like, damn, Daystar's having a bad performance. Like, it always seems like he's doing well, and we've just begun taking this for granted.
Not this split. We
Not
we,
this
we
split,
saw
that's
the
true.
old
Definitely
tilt
last split,
star
definitely last.
in
That's a good
split one,
point.
the 1-7 Aurelia side
Yes.
laning, just trying to create space for the team. But no, not in a while.
But this split, it's just been like he's always delivering.
Yeah.
Yeah, he really has been. I think everyone doing their part. I mean, you heard Lima saying it there. He's big, commending. You know what? I don't even know what I'm trying to say right now. Oh my
A
goodness!
big
What?
effort, commendable effort.
Thank you, commendable effort. The word was commendable. I
I
was
knew
looking
what you were
for.
saying, bro. I'm with you.
Couldn't find it. For why not? So there's clearly a lot of things in the back end that are going well for them. That's our first best of 3 for playoffs done and dusted. It was a 2-0. It means a little bit of a break before we have our second best of 3 occurring, but you want to stick around for it. First off, we are going to jump to a break. When we come back, it's menu log mealtime.
Showcase that he's got a lock of his own, so that means it's a one-man grand entrance. There's Liv wrapping around. It's Daystar untouched, and it's Limas now joining the fight completely on his own as well. Sidesteps the Emperor's Divide, walks up and pretty nullifies the quickness there. Not going to be deterred by what Decoy is trying to dish on out, and it's just